Okay, hey, Alita Army. Welcome to the Alita live stream of September 26, 2025. Ghost in the System, an Alita Battle Angel Story, Part 7, where we discuss all things to do with the movie Alita Battle Angel, the source manga Gundam, and the greatly desired sequels. I am your host, Creek Indian from Denver, Colorado, and with me and our guest of honor is Lee, and he is from Fountain, Colorado.
Hey, how goes it?
Real good, real good. How's it going down there in Fountain there, Lee?
Oh, bright, sunny, nice day.
Yeah, we have the same thing here. We didn't have a cloud in the sky for the last couple of days, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
A little warmer than you would expect too in the end of September. Really, it's like 80 degrees or Fahrenheit, that is, not Celsius. If it was 80 degrees Celsius, we'd all be cooked, I think. So anyway, yeah. And I think Maxie is going to join us later. He's probably being held up. And of course, Angelus, who knows about him? His work schedule is so weird that I can't keep up with him sometimes, you know. But we got some folks going to show up here in just a few moments. They'll come on the stream because I think we all want to, you know, hear Lee's story and so forth. Just want to remind everybody, we got the LA Fires fundraiser going on still. We haven't really had a donation in a couple of months, but we're going to keep it up just in case. Probably everybody on the stream has probably already donated something, but there's a link below the image on the screen, and that link is also down in the description. And you just click on it, takes you to the website, and you can donate. No amount's too small. You can specify your donation to be anonymous, or you can do like Angelus and I do. We just put our names in there because we don't care, you know, if our names are on the internet. Or you can do like Vladi does. He puts his internet handle on there. So, which is, of course, I think he had put in Vladi 99 or something like this. But we really want to help the folks in LA, you know, and the Palisades community, because they were hit pretty hard by that fire. It's really devastating, and they're still in recovery of it, I guess. So if we can help them. And I'm probably going to put some more money in there here next week. So, you know, we'll have a little bit extra for them. You know, I mean, certainly $1,500 in a recovery effort that magnitude is not that much, but hey, every little penny helps, as they would say. And we got the Alita sequel petition going on. And I don't know how many we added. We didn't add too many last week. I think it was only 2, I think. Oh, guess who just joined us from down under, northeast of Sydney, not Queensland, New South Wales.
God, don't put me up in Queensland.
Don't put you up there with Angelus, right?
That's right.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, yeah, we have
Bender.
Yeah. So we have Maxie with us. How's it going, Maxie?
I clicked on, like, I clicked it and you brought me in within like half a second. You're so on the ball, man. That's incredible.
Well, it's so much better when I'm on my computer here in Denver instead of being on the computer there in North Carolina, because I can only really run the stream from my laptop. So I'm kind of limited, you know, in that regard, you know. Although I think I've got a solution because I got to go back there again next month, I think, or maybe in November, go back. And I'll have 2 screens then, so maybe I can do a little better job. But yeah, I'm on the ball this time, Maxie.
You are. That's scary.
And Maxie, I promise I will put the instance for the Radio Chaos stream as soon as we get out of the after party. Well, anyway, as I was saying, we got the Alita sequel petition going on. There's the link you see below the image on your screen, which is also down in the description, and you can click on that. It takes you to the website. You merely enter your name and email address in there, and then you've signed the petition. You can specify that to be anonymous, so no one can see your name or emails, in case you're wondering, you know, that you don't want any of your personal information to get out on the internet, which is understandable. If you want to donate, you can, but you don't have to. I mean, it's to sign the petition, just all you have to do is put your first and last name and email address on there. So We have a lot of signatures on there. You know, I mean, it's not moving real fast, but it does plunge, you know, kind of trudge along every week. So, you know, we're adding to it every week, in and out, in and out. I mean, and people, you know, people want to see the sequel. And for a while, I wanted two sequels, but Lee has convinced me that we need six sequels, or 8 sequels, I think is what Lee was saying. So
Yep.
He's convinced.
3 trilogies.
Yeah, that's right. 3 trilogies. That'd be great, you know. We do have Rose's Queen Studios bust, and when she's ready for it, we'll get it to her. You know, I mean, if she wants me to ship it to her, I can do that. Or heck, if she wants, of course, because she's our queen, if she wants me to drive that sucker down there, I'll do it. You know, it's about 1,100 miles, or about, I guess probably 1,500 kilometers, something like 1,600 kilometers. You know, I'll drive that thing down there if that's what it takes, you know, if she wants it, you know, and she does want it. You know, she told me she wanted it. So, but, you know, we're waiting for the right moment, you know, when things, you know, probably when the sequel gets greenlit or something like that, then we'll get that to our queen. And we got the Alita Gaming Network going on. And, you know, certainly if you do any live streaming, you know, you can put your link in there in the live streams channel. You know, I know Maxie puts links in the network, you know, for Radio Chaos. I didn't put the link for this stream today in the gaming network, or did I? I can't remember if I did or not. But anyway, and I know Chaos Noah, when he does a stream, he'll put links in there to his stream. We also have a fan fiction channel. If you do fanfics of any kind, if it's a full-blown novel like Lee or Maxie does, then you can, you know, put the links, you know, for that in the fan fiction channel. If you're doing like shorts, you can actually upload the document. I think Channel Does Not Exist does that. She has a bunch of fanfics in there, I think. Panini Freak also has a fanfic in there, and so does The Creek. I got a fanfic in there. So mine's nothing compared to, in terms of volume and depth, that Lee and Maxie's are, but it was fun writing it and, you know, putting the story together. If you do artwork or you do videos, you can upload that to the User Creations channel, and you know, just sort of there we go. There's, speak of the devil, there's Chaos Nova. How's it going, Chaos? How are things there in north of Philadelphia? And I think he's muted.
Sorry, I couldn't see for a minute.
Oh, that's all right. So how are things north of there, Chaos?
All right. I didn't manage to live stream Sarge's Heroes again this week. I had a couple of things going on.
Okay.
So it happens.
Yeah, I just told folks that when you do streams, you put your links in there, and you put links to other stuff in there too as well, don't you?
Well, the link will still be right for Sarge's Heroes. I just need to reschedule it.
Okay. But anyway, like I say, if you do artwork or videos, you can put links in there to that, or you can actually upload the artwork. You know, you don't have to put a link in there. I mean, you can go either way with it. If you, you know, if you're doing something that's not Alita related or very, very loosely Alita related, you could put that in the off-topic channel. We do have 3 voice channels. If you
don't worry, I'm overdue. I just need to, but I'd be more than willing to talk about Alita while I'm playing it, even though it isn't.
Oh, okay. But anyway, we got 3 voice channels there, and if you want to just hang out with, you know, other folks and friends on the network, on the gaming network, you can do that. It's not streamed. It's just be you and whoever you invite. You can pick any of the 3 networks. You don't need my permission to do it, or Matu's position. You can just hop on there and invite people, and y'all just start talking. You know, y'all. That's Southern American for you guys. Can start, you know, carrying on conversation, that kind of stuff. I know Vladi and Smendrick from time to time, and I don't think they've done this for a while, but they were getting on the gaming channel and, you know, they were playing RoboCop at one time, and they played other games on there, I think. And there's the Watch Party channel. You know, we did do a watch party on September the 9th, surprise, surprise. And guess what we watched? Maxie, that since you're the Pope, I'm going to ask you, what do you think we watched on September 9th?
Oh, wow.
That's hard, isn't it?
Could it have been Alita Battle Angel?
That's it. Yes, you win the prize, which is an attaboy. So anyway, yeah, but we watched Alita Battle Angel. We did that in the gaming network, and we did a simultaneous thing, I guess, on YouTube here in StreamYard. So it was kind of cool. You know, we had a good time with that. There you see the link below our Chibi Alita mascot. Just click on it. If you don't have a Discord username, it's going to ask you for one, and you can sign up for the free, service, the basic, username. It doesn't cost anything, and you get in, and of course, then you'll get an invite to join the network. Click on it, and a bunch of people will start, putting the little emojis on there that welcoming you and all that kind of stuff, and then you have pretty free reign. You can do a lot of fun stuff on the network. Mattu and I do monitor this, but we've never ever had to take any action, for people maybe uploading inappropriate material or something like that, because the Elite Army is pretty good about not doing that stuff. We're real respectful, and we just want to have this to have fun, so that's the case for that one. All right, Lee, I guess you're up. And by the way, Chaos, if you want to put something in a private chat while Lee is reading the story, I'll put it in the public chat.
I'll raise a comment, because it was nice of you and half the Elite Army to come watching Fist of the North Star almost 2 years ago. I was thinking, why not finish it?
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. I remember being on that. It was nice. So
yeah.
All right, Lee. Well, I guess you can set us up. Set us up for chapter 15. I guess bring us up kind of quickly up to that point, and then we can go right into your story.
All right. Well, I guess a quick recap of the end of chapter 14 was. Let's see. I want to apologize ahead of time. I did not get a good night's sleep, so I might be a little slow on the uptake here on some things. Jason went out doing a shopping trip with Alita, getting some supplies he needed for some things. Faced down some of his fears, dealing with being in a busy, hostile city while stuck in a wheelchair, and is starting to feel more at home in the clinic.
But that doesn't sound like anything bad happened to him.
Well, he suffered some anxiety attacks, but no, nothing, overly bad happened to him. Yeah.
It's a very unusual
chapter. The best is yet to come, right? In terms
or
of
the
that.
Worst. So on to chapter 15, which is going to be a bit of a departure, because this is where it goes to tracking other individuals, specifically Zalem.
A certain important other nasty individual.
Yep. So chapter 15, Zalem. Bigot Eisenberg quickly made his way through the well-appointed passages of Zalem's upper levels. A man of strong German descent, clothed in a suit with a militaristic cut, his athletic figure gave off an air of grave authority. It doesn't take long before he's standing before the door to his destination. Setting his features in a grim expression, he pauses before entering the door to the lab, steeling himself to face the man inside. If you can call him a man, Bigot thinks to himself. Combined with a variant of the Methuselization longevity treatments, Desti Nova's advanced nanotechnology allowed him to live for centuries. And Bigot had even witnessed Nova regenerate serious damage after a laboratory accident some years ago. Over the years, all of that, combined with Nova's rather sadistic genius, led Bigot to wonder just how human was Zalem's despotic ruler. Effectively immortal, able to regenerate extensive wounds within seconds, and unbelievably brilliant. Combined with an unparalleled ruthlessness and complete lack of morals and empathy, Nova had managed to make himself the ruler of Zalem centuries before Bigot had been born, circumventing the ruling council that was nominally in charge of the floating city. Oh, the council could provide some amount of pushback on certain things, but in almost all aspects, Nova was the one in charge of life on Zalem as well as in the poverty-riddled city below. The lives of every citizen of Zalem and Iron City were his to do with as he wished, and he did exactly that, taking great pleasure in playing with those lives like some sadistic god. Or a devil, Bigot mused. While Eisenberg was no believer in gods, he was fairly certain that the devil existed, and he had chosen the form of one Desti Nova. With a quick wave of his hand, Bigot signals the embedded sensors to open the doors and enters into the spacious laboratory. A brief scan around the room reveals only a single white-clad lab technician focused on a set of instruments off to the side, but no Nova. Heading towards the right side of the chamber, Bigot makes his way towards a set of elegantly designed arching doors. Passing through them onto the expansive balcony, he finds Nova standing near the railing, looking out over the sprawling Iron City below. Crossing the short distance to stand exactly 1.5 meters from Nova's left side, Bigot waits with a stiff posture, almost at attention, knowing better than to interrupt the white-haired scientist. After a couple minutes of perusing the information being displayed on the holographic display of the palm-sized datapad in his hand, Nova glances over at him. "Ah, Mr. Eisenberg," Nova almost purrs. "I take it repairs have finally been completed on the external surveillance grid?" While his tone is reminiscent of one talking to a companion, Bigot is quite familiar with the faint trace of malice that underlies it, waiting like a hidden predator to strike at the first sign of weakness. "Yes, sir," he answers in a carefully modulated monotone. "All systems are back up to full capacity. It appears that it was indeed sabotage." Considering that Nova was almost certainly already aware of the answer, Bigot had no doubt that this was another of those strange little games Nova liked to play with the people around him. Nova smiled only faintly, but his voice was filled with a casual, depraved humor. "Of course it was sabotage. Every generation has one or two rebels, and as always, these will be found and dealt with." Bigot feels himself blanch at the memory of the last rebel who'd been caught messing with important systems. A young boy of 17 who'd imagined he was making some kind of profound statement, standing up to the system. When he'd been brought in, he was defiant, almost fearless. After Nova had finished with the boy, the twisted remains were shown to the immediate family along with a warning, before being dumped onto the scrap heap below. Bigot refused to remember the details. How the boy's mother had collapsed screaming, tears streaming down her face at the sight of what remained of her son, or the sadistic pleasure Nova had taken at the family's overall reaction, reveling in his power over them. Such examples were always made of anyone standing up to the powers Nova had put in place. While they were never officially made public, neither were they suppressed. Nova let the stories and rumors circulate, allowing fear to do much of his work for him. Of course, there were plenty of surveillance and security systems in place to ensure that it stays that way should fear fail to do its job. It would require an upset of epic proportions to allow the system to be challenged in any meaningful way, and no one had that kind of power. At least, no one on Zalem. "All that aside," Nova went on, his tone light and airy, "this little incident has thrown off my schedule. This will need to be corrected, and I need you to see to the details. There are other matters I'll be tending to." Bigot tamps down on a surge of anxiety, careful to keep any sign of it from his expression. Seeing to the details of Nova's little experiments was often its own kind of hell. Fortunately, Nova also rewarded useful servants, often lavishly. But even without the rewards, this was a far better position to be in than being part of the experiments. To Nova, there were ultimately only two kinds of people in the world: those who were experimented on and those who did the experimenting. And he did love his experiments, often testing his subjects to destruction, though there were a number of exceptions. All of this was done in the service of what Nova called Karmatron dynamics, studying higher dimensional patterns, such as resulted from information, energy, a person's actions, in order to predict a person's destiny, for lack of a better term. By predicting a person's destiny, Nova sought to completely control human destiny overall. At least that was Bigot Eisenberg's understanding of it. Testing such an unusual individual as Alita supplied Nova not only with a wealth of data towards his Karmatron dynamics experiments, but also entertained him tremendously. He enjoyed watching her suffer, but in the end, Eisenberg knew that Nova would eventually destroy her. She is, after all, a threat to the established order of things. His manner becoming friendly, almost casual, Nova turns to him fully. But first things first, how is our little Alita? Feeling the skin on the back of his neck and scalp crawl at the sight of the friendly smile on Nova's face, Bigot sends specific mental commands to the highly advanced neural implants all high-level officials possess. Holding his hand out at chest height, palm up, subdermal implants project a holographic display of the current subject of Nova's interest into the air between the two men. The current batch of Karmatron dynamics projections around Subject 99A have lately been inconclusive. The breath catches in Bigot's throat as he braces for the rage he expects from his overlord. Instead of rage, however, a strange look of intense curiosity crosses Nova's face. Indeed. How unexpected. Nova turns and paces a few steps away, calling up information on a little data pad in his hands. He stops, one arm crossed over the small of his back, as he gazes into the holographic display of the pad. Up until now, the karmic forces around Alita have thrown everything into near uncertainty. She's been a veritable cyclone, Nova muses in a subdued voice. But these last few weeks, Karmatron projections around her have plateaued in a way that's well outside expected parameters. Nova's voice becomes soft and thoughtful, though still holding an almost frightening intensity as he peers deep into the data display. The subject herself hasn't undergone a change radical enough to account for this. So what could be the cause? Has the environment changed in some way? His eyes flicker over the display in an almost maniacal fashion. No. I've spent centuries molding Iron City into the perfect laboratory for my work, and it remains so. Shortly after she was revived, the waves she put out were like a volcanic eruption, a tidal wave of chaos, changing things around her in unexpected ways. According to every indication, this should have continued. Instead, his voice trails off. Snapping off the display, Nova slowly looks up and turns back around. According to this data, this seems to have started when she changed back to her berserker body. For months, she kept to her motorball body, unable to face the pain of her failure with that boy, Hugo. Unable to wear the body tied to the memories of his death. Raising a hand to his face, he taps his lips lightly with an index finger. There's something I'm overlooking. But what? In his years being the scientist's assistant, Bigot has become well aware that Nova possesses keen insights into human nature, and that the scientist is incredibly, almost supernaturally adept at reading people. Combined with what has been gleaned from his Karmatron dynamics, Nova had predicted that Alita should have remained so traumatized by her boyfriend's death that she would remain in her motorball body all the way up until she reached the championships, distancing herself from the body she wore when she'd failed to save the young man. Once again, she proves more unpredictable than I had anticipated, the immortal scientist mutters quietly. Unless it's not her, specifically. something else. Nova's eyes flash with a shadowy gleam. Snapping his attention to Bigot, Nova sharply orders, "Show me the events that occurred just prior to her returning to the Berserker." Obediently, Bigot calls up the information from the city's massive and heavily protected central computers, displaying it through his subdermal implants. Footage and data from weeks ago are displayed. The beginning of the evening's game, the battle that commenced over the motorball as the players raced around the winding track, everything going as expected. What wasn't quite expected, but was anticipated as a possibility, was Alita's tuner, her adopted father Ito, being called away mid-game to deal with a patient. The next day, and the following few days afterwards, Dr. Ito spent every waking moment dealing with unexpected emergencies that plagued Alita's team. His doing so had allowed Alita and her team to remain competitive enough to completely destroy an opposing team that had actually threatened to set them back. It had been an unexpectedly intense game, all thanks to minor upgrades that Nova had snuck into the opposing team's parts. Not enough to help them win, but enough to test Alita's capabilities and perseverance. Even after the game was over, Ito had spent an entire day seeing to life support problems that developed in the cores of 2 of Alita's teammates. The problems had been nothing serious enough that another cyber physician couldn't have dealt with them, but Ito had seemed hell-bent on making sure everything was in perfect order. When Alita had asked him, he had assured her that he was checking in with Gerhard and everything was fine in the clinic. "Show me this patient that pulled the exile, Ito, away from that night's game," Nova orders abruptly. Bigot immediately calls up the information, showing the surveillance footage he had tracked down of how the patient got into Ito's clinic in the first place. The drug-crazed criminal enforcer who'd gone off the deep end and was on the verge of killing some homeless dreg. The crowd that had gathered to watch the show, and then the man in the strange olive-drab jacket who had stepped in between the enforcer and the dreg. The man looked to be in his mid to late 40s, attractive in Bigot's estimation, though the scowl that was normally seen on his face marred that attractiveness. "He looks like he's about to shit his pants," Eisenberg thought to himself, and I can't say I blame him. He'd seen what happened next. "Freeze," Nova commands, causing Bigot to stop the image playing out. Nova then leans in closer to the projection, scrutinizing the tiny figure now standing almost calmly, defiantly between the dreg lying on the ground and the hulking enforcer. "He's terrified," Nova observes in a calm, detached manner. "He's also rather angry." Nova's eyes narrow just a bit. Very angry, in fact, but not at the enforcer. Not specifically, anyway. More scrutiny under that cold gaze. He's angry at the crowd. A slow, icy chuckle comes from Nova. "He's an idealist. I haven't seen another one of those in quite some time." To Bigot's ears, Nova's voice drips with derisive amusement. The scientist's eyes flicker over the displays of information. Jason Deshane, early 50s, born in a small mining settlement to the south, no known family, precious few friends, a farmhand, how quaint. That reptilian gaze slides back to the image itself. Continue. The image flows into motion again. The man, Jason, attempts to talk the enforcer down. The enforcer, who is normally even-tempered, becomes enraged and backhands the man. The subject is thrown back a couple meters and tumbles onto the pavement, badly hurt. Then the enforcer is on him in a flash, moving with a speed that only someone with augmented reflexes could match. The agonized screams that Jason emits are more like those of an animal being mutilated than what would come from a human. Sounds of flesh and bone tearing, the horror show playing out in color, it all makes Bigot faintly nauseous. He is unsurprised, though is still a little sickened, to see the look of genuine amusement on Nova's face. He keeps his own features carefully neutral. Bigot finds himself feeling very vaguely sorry for this Jason, but only vaguely. After all, what did he care about some filthy dirt-sider who'd gotten himself crippled by sticking his nose in where it didn't belong? Only a complete fool would do such a thing. Based on what he'd seen, this Jason was one of the few idiot do-gooders that popped up now and then. They rarely ever lasted long. What was that old saying? Bigot wonders to himself. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. In all, it only takes seconds. One arm is crushed and ripped off at the elbow, one leg torn off at the knee, twisted and pulled apart as if the enforcer were taking the legs of a small animal. The other leg quite literally stomped into the pavement for the most part, ruined and unrecoverable, certainly. Then it's over as suddenly as it started. The drug-crazed cyborg sprinting off into the crowd, bowling over those too slow to get out of his way. It's as if something is hot on his heels, likely some sort of hallucination, considering the cocktail of drugs that he'd binged on. The wreckage of what was just a moment ago a rather brave man is left in an expanding pool of blood, a ragged, quiet whimpering the only sound coming from him. The farmer's daughter, whom the man had come to the city with, rushes over to him, horrified and weeping at what had happened to her friend. Despite her distress, the young woman manages to provide rather expert first aid to the wounded man. She then manages to get him transported to the closest medical help, Ito's clinic, despite the fact that no one in the crowd moved to help her. The amount of blood he left behind, Bigot is amazed the man survived it all. Enough, Nova commands, and Bigot obediently switches off the holographic projector. He's been there for weeks, in the home of the best cyber surgeon in Iron City. Why is this man still in a wheelchair? According to what I could find, he suffers from some sort of neural problem that's preventing him from utilizing cybernetics properly. Nova's eyes scan the horizon as he slowly turns to look out over the balcony towards the sprawling city below. Bringing up his little data reader, Bigot can see that he calls up Karmatronic data, studying it for a few minutes. I know of no condition that could cause this sort of problem. Even Ito's daughter would have been able to use cybernetics after a fashion, despite her degenerative condition, though she did require a full-body replacement. I want you to begin a file on this Jason Deshane. Shall I make preparations to have him added to 99A's tests? Nova waves one hand dismissively. Not at this time, no. His karmic readings are almost non-existent, hardly even registering. He's irrelevant. However, after viewing Alita's interactions with him recently, he may prove useful in the future. She seems to have taken a liking to this man. Before he can stop himself, Bigot's surprise gets the better of him. She's attracted to him? Nova's snort of laughter is contemptuous not just of Bigot's assumption, but also the idea behind the question. Hardly. She merely seems to find him likable. A rather surprising development, considering how she's distanced herself from anyone not already a part of her little circle. If she's forming any kind of bond with him, it could prove educational to see what happens when it's torn away. Turning back to face Bigot, Nova's face shows a mild amusement. I had planned to see what sort of reaction could be elicited by cutting away the nurse Gerhard. Now I think adding this Jason to the mix might shake things up in an interesting way, if he is utilized properly. Nova changes the readout on a little data pad, focusing on Bigot again. Speaking of Alita's little circle, what about that trip that she and her little family took out to the Badlands recently? Pushing the words past a suddenly dry throat, Bigot responds. Unfortunately, the sabotage to our surveillance network caused us to lose the van after it reached the tree line. We were unable to ascertain the purpose of their trip. Grunting absently, Nova says quietly, almost muttering, "We'll keep our attention focused on the city and the subjects themselves for the time being. Unless Alita happens to go along on another outing, of course." "Certainly, sir." His expression changing subtly but rapidly, Nova switches gears. "What about the team that Alita will be facing in her upcoming matches?" Bigot switches the holo display to bring up the players of the opposing team that Alita's would soon face. Of the 7 primary players, only this one shows any promise. He enlarges one image while shrinking the others. He goes by the name Fenrir. He is volatile, stubborn, arrogant, has a small but useful number of addictions, and appears to be bitter about a career that is now stagnating towards the top of Second League. Nova focuses his gaze on the holographic image of the rather brutish-looking cyborg, reading the face as well as the information displayed. Yes, watching a promising career slowly die as a hard-fought future fades from his very grasp. And prideful, very nice. No doubt he'll take losing to a little girl like Alita very badly. I think I can use this one. Understood, Bigot answers promptly. Anything else, sir? Nothing further. Bigot nods obediently and switches off his holoprojector. When she finally reaches First League, Nova continues, turning his gaze back out towards the distant horizon, a note of warning in his voice. I want everything ready for her final challenge. Joshigan should provide some interesting results when the two of them finally clash. Then Nova fully turns his back on Bigot, signaling that the assistant is dismissed. And Bigot is only too ready to be dismissed. Turning on his heel, he quickly makes his way through the balcony doors and heads for the laboratory exit. Alita's inevitable conflict with the reigning motorball champion was still some ways off, but there was a great deal to get ready before then. The Karmatron information alone took enormous time and resources to properly parse and assemble. Though Nova seemingly had all the time in the world to see his little projects through, he could still be frighteningly impatient about preparations being made ready in a timely manner. End of chapter.
Boy, that Nova, he's a real bastard, isn't he?
Yeah, well, just
He's
a bit.
Bad man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You could just sense the. I don't know what word to put into it. The evilness or the
menace.
the menace. You could just sense it, just from your reading.
Well, I'm glad I got that through. I was really trying
Yeah.
to make sure I did, some justice to how sort of villainous he seemed to be. They were wanting to portray him, both how he appeared in the manga at times and how it seemed they were trying to portray him in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't see enough of him in the movie.
Yeah, it's just teasers because they were trying to set up for the sequels that hopefully we'll be getting soon.
That we will be getting soon.
Yeah, true.
That's my thing, I guess. Yeah, he's AKA says you got Nova down. You nailed him.
Glad to hear it. That is one of the things that was different about this chapter was I had a friend of mine who was my beta reader before work and life made him too busy to be able to continue. He had suggested that I do maybe a few chapters just to kind of break up the first-person narrative with Jason a bit. So this was the first attempt of that, and then there was a couple more that you've seen.
Yeah.
Later on down the line.
Yeah, that chapter was a little shorter than the others too.
Yeah, it's only 5. It's only 5 pages.
Yeah, we might get into chapter 17 today if everybody's amenable. So
possibly.
Yeah. So Maxie, what's your expert opinion?
He's a bad man.
Yeah, he is.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, when I first read this 6 months ago now, maybe a bit longer, I really appreciated Lee's take on Nova because I struggled with him in my fan fiction as well, trying to make him evil enough.
Yeah.
But also capricious, because in the manga he's quite capricious.
Yeah, he is.
So I sort of wanted to get that same feel of the dedicated researcher who has zero morality and is capricious and is a complete bastard.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it is for decent human beings, which I count myself and Lee among them. It's very hard to think like that because it's so wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, you're drawing on parts of your personality that you do not use,
Yeah.
like ever. Because you would never be that cruel and lacking in morals and all that sort of stuff.
Well, and whatever constituents that you have in your personality that might comprise that, in your case, it was probably like very small. You can think of it as like coins, and maybe you only have one or two coins, whereas of that kind of capriciousness and absolute evil, you know, as opposed to Nova, who probably has $1 million worth of those coins, something like that, you know.
The dude's like a dragon with his horde of evil.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Excuse me. Sorry.
So we ready to go into chapter 18? Unless
I think so.
one thing I would say about Bigot was that he was anxious to get out of there.
Yeah, he does not
He
like
doesn't want-
serving Nova.
He does not like being around this man at all, you know, and you could sense that as well, you know.
Yeah, I decided to write Bigot as finding Nova a bit unnerving, which I think Maxie also did a bit with his.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I kind of took some of my cues from Maxie's, in fact, actually.
I had that feeling.
Yeah. I mean, it being my first real story I wrote, I decided to take some cues from somebody who had some experience doing that kind of thing. And yes, chapter 16 is now what I'll be coming up on next here.
Now that's a little longer, I think, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
From what I remember, yeah.
What is this? This is this is the wrong one. Still working on that one. So chapter 16. Yeah, it's 13 pages.
Yeah, that's what. Okay, Lee, you got the floor.
Oh yeah. Hold on a sec.
Step up to the podium, young man.
I am. Just give me a bit to try and make sure my throat's not going to dry out on me.
And after this, we'll see if folks want to go to chapter. I mean, we're going to 16. If they want to go chapter 17, we can do that as well. You know, I mean, we don't, you know, we don't have a schedule to keep here. You know, we don't have show notes, Maxie.
Okay, so chapter 16, Another's Pain. The next morning at breakfast, Ito shares some of his findings from his experiments in the clinic's basement machine shop laboratory. I got an electric motor drawing power from a regular outlet, Ito explains with a gesture at the clinic in general, and hooked it up to your vehicle's alternator with a belt. This allows me to generate electricity with the alternator. Refraining from making a smart-ass comment about him stating the obvious, I shrug and say, okay, so it is generating a charge then. Ito nods. Yes. However, the only way I can tell is to hook it up to one of the lights I took from your truck. If I touch the live wires from the alternator to anything that wasn't affected by that anomaly, there's simply no effect. And as you know, my diagnostic tools won't tell me anything. He continues a bit hesitantly, as if a little embarrassed by his next admission. I even tried touching the leads to my forearm, again to no effect. Alita's brows draw down as she looks over at Ito with some disbelief. Were you trying to electrocute yourself? It's not exactly a lethal charge coming off those alternators, I say to her. It might give you a painful zap, but not much else. Turning to Ito, I ask, okay, so what does this tell us? Spreading his hands in an expansive shrug, he replies, nothing new, I'm afraid. It merely reinforces what we already do know, that the anomaly that brought you here has somehow put you and everything that was within it into some sort of out-of-phase state or something of the sort. Shaking his head a little, he looks down at his plate of food with a thoughtful look. I get the impression that he still got no idea what to even make of this. With a nod, I go back to eating, but stop as a resigned sigh escapes me. It's an answer I'd already expected. Hell, I've pretty much given up on any hope that Ito's going to find any kind of cure for whatever this is that's keeping me locked out of using cyberware, regardless of how skilled he might be of a cyber surgeon. Still, some part of me did hold out a faint hope. It does mean I should be able to recharge your smartphone, however, Ito offers. You'll finally be able to access whatever is on there that may be of importance to you. Summoning up a faint smile, I say, well, that'll be good, yeah. Letting the smile fade, I add, but for the foreseeable future, I'm going to be staying in this wheelchair. Pressing my lips into a thin line, I straighten up in my chair and decide on something I've been toying with since yesterday. I guess that tears it then. The two of them look at me questioningly, Alita asking, tears what? With only the slightest hesitation, I announce, I think it's time I looked for a place of my own. I think I've taken up space in your home long enough. I can only hope I manage to keep the faint quaver of fear out of... Sorry, I just lost my place. I can only hope I manage to keep the faint quaver of fear out of my voice. It's a big step considering my condition, and frightening in a place like Iron City. But it's time to face reality. The pair seem somewhat taken aback at my announcement, which I hadn't expected. They certainly seem less enthusiastic about it than I'd figured they'd be. I had expected some smiles and encouraging words at the prospect of getting this weird old guy out of their home, finally. However, that doesn't seem to be the case. Alita is the first to break the suddenly awkward-seeming silence. You're not serious. It's my turn to be taken aback. Yeah, I answer back. Why wouldn't I be? Picking up my coffee cup, I gesture at Ito with it. I can't be fixed, and you guys can't keep taking care of me. Sounding more confident, more defeated than confident, I add with a shrug. Time to face reality. I pause to get that tone of defeat out of my voice, then go on. I'm wheelchair-bound, but I'm learning to do more on my own. I even convinced Gerhard that I can shower without help from now on. Putting on a more upbeat tone, I shrug and add, besides, with how well yesterday went, well, you know. Ito opens his mouth to say something, only be overridden by an earnest Alita. No, I don't know. You had a good day yesterday, sure, but... She seems momentarily at a loss for words. Then, what are you going to do for income? Well, I begin slowly, unsure of how this next bit is going to be greeted. I was thinking I could keep working here, if that's okay. I mean, I still owe you, I gesture toward Ito, for everything you've done, and maybe I can work that off. To which my brain adds, to say nothing of the fact that I don't have anyone beating down my door to hire a one-armed paraplegic. Well, of course, Ito says rather distractedly. But there's other considerations besides that. For starters, wheelchair access isn't something that's really given any thought in this city. Can't help but caustically think to myself, yeah, because everyone else gets cybernetic legs around here. Except me. He goes on. Then there's the dangers of being viewed as an easy target, even in this neighborhood. Exactly, Alita cuts in, almost angrily. You know damned well how dangerous it is out there. With a barely perceptible pained catch in her voice, she adds, especially in your condition. How are you going to defend yourself if someone decides you're an easy mark? Being a bit stunned by her reaction, I'm slow to respond. Finally, I shrug and say uncertainly, well, it's just something I'm going to have to deal with, isn't it? I mean, everyone around here has to deal with the same risks, don't they? Like I keep hearing, it's a dangerous city. That's just a fact of life. It is, in fact, something I've been dreading. I've had a few nightmares about being attacked while I'm stuck in this wheelchair, practically helpless. Rising up out of her chair several centimeters, Alita puts her hands on either side of her plate and does a surprisingly good job of looming over me. And that's exactly why you need to stay here for now. Ito can find a solution. You just need to give him more time. The glint of steel in her eyes highlights the tensing of the artificial jaw muscles under her synth skin. She's clearly ready to fight me on this, much to my surprise. I have no idea what to say to that, as I didn't expect any real pushback on this. Maybe a "are you sure" or something along those lines, but certainly not this. It hits me that she's clearly worried about my safety. My mind isn't entirely sure how to process that. She barely even knows me. Putting a hand lightly on her forearm, Ito gets her to sit back down as he says to me, "I can understand that you want to get back to being self-sufficient, but like Alita, I seriously advise against it." Once Alita is seated again, he cuts a meaningful glance at her. "It's ultimately up to you, Jason, but I'd really like to have time to give you the best chance I can. Right now, I don't think you're quite ready." Looking down at my hand, holding my coffee cup, numerous thoughts race through my head. It's all a jumbled mess, but what does stand out is that these two are clearly looking out for my best interests. The constant stream of anxiety and depression-riddled filth that constantly streams through my mind, trying to tell me otherwise, can fuck right off. Finally, I let out a deep sigh and quote an old movie that's certain to fly right over their heads. "So what you're telling me is I got a big head," I gesture with my residual arm, "a tiny arm, and this plan wasn't well thought out." Ito chuckles lightly. "Something like that, I suppose, yes." Relieved, if confused by my answer, he shakes his head and takes another sip of his own cup of coffee. Alita flashes a crooked grin at me and shakes her head, likewise relieved, if confused. "You are such a strange man." Having no argument to that assessment, I shrug, smirking as I take a sip of coffee. Truth be told, their insisting that I stay is a tremendous weight off my shoulders. I decide to take it as a sign from God that I'd best follow their advice. Putting together a little coffee service for the waiting room turns out to be easier than I'd initially thought, in part because being among the patients in the waiting room doesn't cause me nearly as much anxiety as I'd feared, but also because no one makes use of it for the first few hours that it's set up. After a bit, I'm approached by a broad-shouldered man in gray coveralls and a rather industrial-looking left arm. Excuse me," the man says as I'm completing a restocking task. Putting the last item away on the shelf, I turn to him. "What can I help you with?" It takes some small effort to hide my uneasiness. Though he looks worn and tired, the man is quite polite, as opposed to irritable or brusque like I'd have expected. "Well, I noticed you put that coffee out in the waiting room, but I didn't see any kind of price or anything on it. I was just curious." "Oh, it's free," I interject, realizing the confusion. "Help yourself." The man's demeanor immediately brightens. "Really? Thanks." "Sure thing," I casually respond with a shrug. After that, the coffee goes rather fast, with just about everyone in the waiting room grabbing themselves one of the little disposable cups and filling it from the small dispenser. I can't help but smile a little as I realize that the normally quiet waiting room filled with tired cyborgs, worn from constant work, is now a little more lively. Some of the waiting patients are even engaging in quiet conversation over a cup of coffee, mostly to commiserate over problems they all seem to share. My spirits are further lifted when an unexpected visitor drops by around noon. Loretta, having a free moment after her delivery, stops by to see me. Fortunately, it's while I also have a free moment, so we find a quiet corner to talk for a bit. "How have you guys been?" I ask her, taking in the visible fatigue on her features. "We've been doing pretty good, actually," she says with an easy smile. Leaning in a little, she adds in an almost conspiratorial manner, "We've been getting a lot of orders from businesses, including a bit from the factory itself. We've been getting a lot more orders from businesses, including a bit from the factory itself." My eyebrows go up in surprise at that. "Seriously? The factory's been sending you guys orders?" A touch of suspicion tickles the back of my mind. Why the hell would the factory need to get food from such a small operation as Henry's? Certainly the production margins aren't that tight, are they? "Yeah, believe it or not, some of the factory farms to the northwest got damaged pretty badly. I guess it's really cut into the mainline food supply for Zalem." Loretta shrugs one shoulder a little. For the time being, at least, they're relying on the small farms to make up some of the difference. Huh. I look off towards the unseen horizon. What the hell could have done that? She lowers her voice further. From what I hear, some powerful group of bandits have been hitting the outlying areas in that direction. Called the Barjack or something, I think. Barjack, huh? Absent-mindedly, I bite at the inside of one corner of my mouth as I take that in. Any idea how long that sort of thing's been going on? Loretta seems to think for a moment, then shrugs. Can't really say, but from what Dad was telling me about the deal the factory made with him, he thinks this has been going on for a couple months at least. It's apparently gotten worse as time goes on. She gives a tired half smile. On the upside, it means we've had to expand our operations a bit to keep up with demands. My surprise at the thought of a bunch of bandits being powerful enough to give Zalem any kind of fight is overshadowed by surprise at this news about our family's farm. Well, that's great, I say, unable to keep from grinning. If business is booming, then you guys will be able to keep your home. Her face lights up with an answering smile. It's looking like it, but it also means we're going to be a lot busier for a while, too. The smile fades from her lips as her gaze sinks towards the floor. Really wish you were still with us. For a fleeting moment, she seems close to tears. Seeing her like that chokes me up a little. So do I. I actually miss that little bunkhouse room. I managed a crooked little grin as I added with a shrug. Afraid I can't really say the same about my roommate snoring. This gets a little laugh from her and her face brightens. Axel wasn't that bad, was he? She asks, back to her usual upbeat self. Nah, he wasn't, I reply with a quiet chuckle. Speaking of, how's he and the others been doing? They're good. Everyone's pretty worn down, but with the new business has come a bit of a pay increase, so that's helped keep morale up. After imparting the good news about the farm, our conversation shifts to other subjects. She asks about her idol, Alita, who's currently off at a practice session with her team. I can tell she's a little disappointed that I have so little to say on the subject, but despite my living here for these past few weeks, I don't feel I have a whole lot to share. I'm just not willing to risk letting something slip that would put Ito and the others as well as myself at risk. All too soon, it's time for her to leave. She leans down to give me a somewhat awkward hug, and I embrace her tightly. Give Henry my best, I say, letting her go as she stands back up. Tell him I'm happy to hear about things picking up for you guys. She gives my hand a last gentle squeeze before completely letting go. I'll do that. We part ways at the front door next to the little waiting room, each of us exchanging a final goodbye wave as I see her off. I watch her get back into the farm's delivery truck along with a few other workers, two of whom I don't recognize. Watching them leave isn't quite so bad this time around, but it still leaves me with a sense of quiet panic, the fear of an uncertain future seizing me. There's also a sense that my life is an exercise in futility, compounding this feeling of meaninglessness and irrelevance. After all, whispers that poisonous voice in the back of my head, things didn't start looking up for them until after you weren't there anymore. Unable to entirely shake off the feeling, I turned to head back to the kitchen to find my way obstructed by a young woman in threadbare work clothes with numerous patches. She stands there, close-cut raven hair framing a face that looks startled and uncertain for half a heartbeat before finally speaking. Hello. She smiles hesitantly, hands folded in front of her. Hey there, I respond pleasantly, hiding away the fear and creeping desperation. Something I can do for you? She fidgets uncomfortably, as if she'd rather be elsewhere before answering. Not really, no. I just wanted to thank you. Taken aback by this unexpected response, I'm slow to respond. For what exactly? I kind of doubt that this is about the coffee in the waiting room. There's a visible struggle in her eyes, as if she's fighting against something trying to hold her back. She seems relieved by my reaction. Well, that man that you saved? He's a friend. He's always been kind to me, at times even when nobody else was. She seems to shrink in on herself, hunching her shoulders slightly. So thank you for saving him. Her eyes flicker across my amputated legs and arm. I am sorry about what happened to you, though. I really hope Dr. Ito can get you fixed up. That now familiar anger surges up, and I push it back down, unwilling to let it out. Putting on what I hope is a more pleasant expression, I say to her, well, I appreciate the sentiment. I hope your friend's doing okay now. Last I had heard, he had a broken arm. Her expression brightens a bit and her shoulders relax, though the hesitancy remains. Yes, he's doing okay, or rather he was last we talked. A momentary sadness clouds her features. It's been a while since I've seen him around. I used to see him every couple of days, but the last time I saw him was almost 2 weeks ago. I want to say more, but nothing comes to me. Any attempts at consolation or comfort ring hollow. Considering the man was likely homeless, and apparently had been for some time, there's no telling what's happened to him. Maybe he'd been forced to go elsewhere, or maybe worse has happened to him. The memory returns to me of his face as he lay on the ground cradling his broken arm, while that cyborg in a drug-fueled rage looms over him. The fear on his features, like a mirror of the fear I was feeling as I tried to step in to save him. Is it true that Dr. Ito discovered some sort of problem with your nervous system? Her words pull me out of the dark place I was suddenly sliding into, and I look up at her a little startled at her question. Her expression closes up, her features embarrassed as she retreats a short step from me. I mean, if you don't mind my asking. Oh, it's fine. Leaning back in my wheelchair, I make an effort to visibly relax, hoping to put her more at ease. I try to stick to vague, but not too vague. I don't really understand the specifics. It's kind of over my head. But yeah, something about my nervous system's preventing cyberware from linking up to it. Dr. Ito's put a lot of work into finding a solution, but I shrug lightly. So far, nothing. I now remember having seen her sitting in the waiting room with an old woman wearing clothes as worn as her own. Seeing no visible cybernetics on her, I ask, so what brings you down to Ito's clinic? Oh, I'm just here with my neighbor. We live next to each other in the same apartment building, and she needed help getting here. She has some organ replacements that need tuning. I see. In an awkward attempt at conversation, I ask her, so you don't ever come here for yourself? No, I don't have any cyberware of my own, she responds, smiling almost shyly. Kinda like you, I guess, huh? Well, I do have cybernetics, I say conversationally. Holding up the stump of my left arm, I show the mounting and interface hardware that makes up the lower half of it. They just don't work. A faint shrug as I remark. Just my luck, eh? A city full of cybernetics and I can't use any of it. I manage to smile, trying to inject some humor into the words. A pall comes over the woman's features, making her look more troubled than amused, however. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Oh, hey, it's okay. I rush to interject. With any luck, Dr. Ito will get it sorted out. There's embarrassment that I just made her uncomfortable. Abruptly, I remember my manners. Oh, Jason, by the way. I hold out my hand, wondering if she'll be one of those people who'd rather not touch someone visibly missing parts of their body. It's as if the tension leaves her body and she visibly relaxes, taking my hand with a smile and giving it a firm shake. I'm Alondra. It's really nice to meet you. There's a sincerity in her brilliant smile, and I find myself smiling in response. Likewise, I say with a slight bow of my head. To my surprise, we end up talking for several minutes or so. Not about any specific subject, we just talk for a bit. In fact, I end up losing track of time a little, finding her incredibly easy to talk to. During a lull in the conversation, an old woman approaches us. She flashes a friendly smile at me before directing her attention to Alondra. All finished, dear. Her manner towards Alondra is grandmotherly. Right. Should I see the doctor about the payment? Alondra asks her. The older woman gives a shake of her head. Oh, no, he seems busy. The nurse is waiting for you, though. Okay, I'll go take care of it. Alondra gives the older woman a gentle pat on the shoulder before moving off to speak to Nurse Gerhead. Be right back. Such a sweet girl, the old woman says with a quiet cheerfulness. With a glance in the direction Alondra went, I comment idly. Yeah, she seems really nice. Out of curiosity, I comment to the old woman. She mentioned the two of you are neighbors. Yes, we are. A quick pause while I fish for the right words. Considering the poverty so prevalent around here, I begin to ask, I hope you don't mind my asking, but why is... The old woman anticipates my question with a grandmotherly smile. Why is she paying for me? If you don't mind my asking. Oh, she's not paying for me. I'm not that young anymore, so I gave her my money for safekeeping. With an understanding nod, I take that in. It's an unexpected level of trust. In an almost apologetic tone, she goes on. It's not much, but Dr. Ito never asks for more than what people can afford to pay, so I always try to have something for him. With a wistfully impish grin, she adds, he's such a handsome man, and good with his hands. Unable to express a smile at the old woman's candor, I nod. Yeah. Her comment makes me wonder if Ito's aware of her admiration of him. Seeing as Alondra's apparently going to be a bit, I introduce myself. I'm Jason, by the way. I'm Sophia, the woman says cheerfully. The hand she extends is rough, with a faint tracery of scarring all the way up to the elbow-length sleeve of her blouse, almost as if she spent her younger years playing in a vat of razor blades. With a quick glance, I notice that the other arm has the almost plastic look of cheap synth skin, scuffed and scarred, in all likelihood a cybernetic. Putting on a sincere smile, I take her hand and give it a firm shake. Nice to meet you. I find myself rather liking Sophia. And you, she replies with a friendly warmth. Alondra's been so hoping to meet you. She wanted to thank you for saving that friend of hers. Yeah, she did that. I feel my good mood slipping away even as I try to hold on to it. In a fit of self-directed anger, I comment, not really sure I did all that much, considering. Oh, don't be stupid, Sophia says abruptly, still with that warm, grandmotherly tone. You did a lot more than the rest of those toe suckers that just stood around with their heads up their collective ass. Surprised at the words that seem so at odds with her tone, I just raise my eyebrows at her. Sophia seems to misunderstand my expression. Oh, don't get me wrong, that wonderful girl Alita's done so much for us, but what good is her example if no one follows it? People keep saying how she's such an inspiration, but I don't see many people who really put that into practice. I'd say you did that and more. She punctuates her statement with a firm nod of her head. There's an impulse to argue that I wasn't following Alita's example, but I squelch it, saying instead, yeah, I guess I hadn't thought of that. Anyway, I'm glad Alondra finally got to meet you. Things have been so hard for her these past couple of years. This is the first time I've seen her smile in what seems like forever. Unable to think of anything to say, I merely nod politely. After a short moment, Sophia goes on in that way older people sometimes have when something comes to mind. It's a pity that she wears her hair so short these days. She used to have the most beautiful flowing hair down to the middle of her back. Then one day she just chopped it off. It's been that way ever since. The old woman smiles in seeming fondness. I'm hesitant to admit it, but I used to be a bit envious of that hair. Mine went all gray so many years ago. About then, Alondra returns and hands a small bottle to Sophia. Here, Dr. Ito says he wants you to take these until they're all gone. What's this? The older woman asks. After gently placing the little bottle in her neighbor's hand, Alondra says, it's a supplement. Dr. Ito's a little worried about one of your test results. He says these should help. Sophia flashes a little smile at me, saying in an almost conspiratorial manner, such a kind man, and so handsome. With a polite nod, I say with a quiet chuckle, so I hear. Sophia turns to Alondra. Ready to go, dear? Alondra looks about to say yes, but stops as something seems to occur to her. Just a minute, she says as she reaches up behind her neck and undoes a clasp to a necklace that had been hidden under her somewhat oversized shirt. Then she takes my hand and drops the necklace into my palm. I was going to give this to Alita, sort of a thank you for everything she's done for everyone around here. But I figure she's probably got a lot of people giving her things as it is, what with her being so famous and all. I glance down at the plain, if well-made necklace. It's a stylized bird of some kind in mid-flight. I look up at her and ask, "Did you want me to give it to her?" "No, I think you should have it. Alita's done a lot for people, given a lot of people hope. I'm thankful for that, but you're the one who saved my friend. It's just too bad she couldn't have come along sooner." A saddened look comes over her, tinged with a deep pain. Just a flash and it's gone. Something about that look lodges in my mind, but my somewhat befuddled brain just rolls over it and keeps going. "Are you sure about that?" Sophia asks, sounding genuinely surprised and even a little concerned. "I'm sure," Alondra reassures her, the corner of her lips turned up in a rather melancholy smile. "I don't need it anymore." Sophia and I share a somewhat confused glance at that, but the comment passes unremarked. "Well, thank you," I say, holding back a surge of unexpected emotion. "Very much." Then the two of them say goodbye, and I see them off, thinking how nice it was to have met them. It's only after they're gone that I realize I never did learn the name of the man I saved. I shrug it off, figuring I can always ask another time and head back to work. There isn't actually a lot to do today, but I try to keep myself busy. Some time is spent cleaning up around the clinic, in between keeping supplies stocked for Ito and Gerhard or fetching them something they might need while working on a patient. I start a couple little projects on that 3D design program of Ito's. Just toying around with a version of the mobile infantry powered armor from Robert Heinlein's Starship Troopers or weapons from various science fiction stories from my time. None of it's actually usable, considering I have no idea how the innards of such things would work. It's all just fancy replicas of sorts. It keeps me occupied. On a couple of occasions, I take the necklace Alondra gave me out of the pocket I keep it in and look at it, wondering why I'm so bothered by that whole incident. The end of the day rolls around, and Gerhard, rather cheerful at finding out that I've taken care of almost all the needed cleanup, realizes she gets to go home earlier than usual. After she bids Ito goodnight and is getting ready to head home, I approach her. "Do you remember that old woman, Sophia, that was here earlier?" I hadn't planned to bother Gerhard or Ito with my concerns, but this feeling won't leave me alone. Gerhard takes a moment to think as she puts her light jacket on. "Yes, she was in here for some readjustments. What about her?" As is often the case, I begin feeling inexplicably stupid for asking a simple question, but I forge on. "Well, she was with a younger woman, Alondra. I was just wondering if you or Ito had some way of checking on her?" Pausing about halfway into putting her cyber arm through a jacket sleeve, Gerhard looks at me slightly confused. "Sophia?" No, Alondra." She finishes putting her jacket on. "No, we don't bother keeping addresses on file. Quite a few of the patients we treat don't often have a permanent place to live. Besides, she's not one of our patients." Her eyes narrowing slightly in a faintly suspicious, if amused, look, she asks, "Why do you ask?" It occurs to me she might think I'm asking because I find Alondra attractive. In an attempt to try and dispel any such assumptions, I put on my best serious expression. "This is probably going to sound strange, but My brain locks up, anxiety making me believe that I'm just being stupid, wasting people's time with my petty concerns. I managed to push the feeling aside. "I have a feeling something might be wrong. I was just wondering if you or Ito could check on her." She gives a little nod, her amused look replaced by a small frown. "Ah, well, I'm afraid we don't have her cell number, assuming she even has a cell phone, nor do we know where she lives. But if you're really worried, you can let Dyson know. He can ask some of his other patients about her tomorrow. They might know something." "Okay," I reply with a nod. Tipping her head slightly to one side, she gives me a puzzled look. "What is it that has you concerned?" Unable to quantify an answer, I merely shrug. "I don't know. I just..." Another shrug. "I just have this feeling." Gerhard gives me a gentle, reassuring pat on the shoulder. "Well, maybe it's nothing then?" "There's nothing that can be done right now anyway." Letting go of a quick sigh, I nod. Yeah, I guess so. I'm probably just being, I don't know. Try not to worry about it. You have a good night, she says, flashing a smile as she turns to go. You too, I say, returning the smile with a wave. Then she heads out into the evening and is gone. I sit there for a moment or two longer, staring out the darkening street, mulling over the day's events. Taking the necklace out again, I look down at it and decide that maybe I'm just obsessing over nothing. My depression, combined with my anxiety disorder, can often do that. Putting the necklace away, I turn around and head for the kitchen to help Ito start the evening meal. That night, I lay awake in bed staring at the ceiling. Over dinner, I'd let Ito know about my concerns, which is about all I could do under the circumstances. After that, I went up to my room thinking I should just stay out of Ito's way. I figured he might have clinic or motorball business to deal with, and I didn't want to bother him. I was already in bed trying to sleep when Alita had come back for the night. From what I could hear through the door, she'd been out hunting again. She'd taken down 2 rather dangerous bounties. I try not to be judgmental, especially considering the kinds of people she must be hunting down. After all, who else is going to go after serial killers, rapists, and all that? People need to do some pretty harsh things to survive here. That's been plainly obvious to me almost from the moment I got to Iron City. Even so, I can't help thinking about how easily, how casually it seems human life is just snuffed out in this place. I know full well that Alita does in fact care about the people around her, but she was also created as a war machine by a likely now dead civilization. No doubt she's doing the only thing she really knows how to do, dealing with the world in the only way she can. A warrior out of time, trying to survive in a world that's become increasingly desperate. Trying to fight for what's right, if what I've seen so far is any indication. My mind turns to other matters in its wanderings. What happened to my world? It was one of the first coherent questions I asked after getting over the shock of realizing where I was. I still can't quite grasp that this is the only known city left on Earth. I can remember all the towns and cities I traveled to and lived in. Hundreds of millions in North America alone, billions of people all over the world, whittled down to just this? Intense anger, briefly blinding hot, flares to life accompanied by a smoldering hatred, mostly at the world around me, but a good deal of it directed at the shining city floating above. You stupid fucking morons. It boils within for some moments, an energizing poison momentarily clearing my depression. Closing my eyes, I let out a long sigh, releasing the anger and tension with it. It's not going to do me any real good. Then, seemingly of their own accord, my thoughts return to Alondra, and Sophia's words come back to me. This is the first time I've seen her smile in what seems like forever. Followed by, it's a pity that she wears her hair so short these days. She used to have the most beautiful flowing hair down to the middle of her back. Then one day she just chopped it off. The memory of Alondra looking a little sad, but at the same time somehow relieved as she hands me a necklace that I have the distinct impression was very important to her. As she does so, saying, I don't need it anymore. A distant icy dread grips me and I sit upright, scowling in the near dark, fully awake. Grabbing my glasses off the nightstand, I put them on and slowly get off the bed using a little set of wooden stairs at the foot of the bed that Gerhard was kind enough to put together for me. Throwing on some clothes, I climb back onto the bed and transfer into my wheelchair. Just what the hell am I going to do? I ask myself. I'm still not even sure what's wrong. I just know that something is wrong. Am I going to wake up Ito or Alita for some nebulous feeling that I can't even articulate? All I can do is sit here and let this feeling eat at me, but be unable to do anything about it. And so, for the remainder of the night, I sit in my wheelchair doing exactly that, as my mind spins its wheels trying to find an alternative. The next morning, I help Ito get breakfast ready, but I find myself unable to eat any of it. Anxiety and lack of sleep have robbed me of my appetite. I have a cup of coffee and sit quietly while he and Alita eat and discuss some upcoming business that I pay no attention to. After that, Alita heads off to deal with other matters while Ito and I prepare for the new day. Here, Ito says, handing me a tiny paper cup. Finishing drying my hand from washing the last of the few dishes, I put the towel down and take the little cup, looking into it to see a tiny pill inside. What's this? Reaching into the cupboard, Ito grabs a small glass and fills it partway with water, explaining, "It's your medication. Since this particular version seems to be the option we're going with, I've decided it's past time we switch to a form that's going to leave fewer puncture marks on you." With a faint smile and a little joke, he hands me the glass of water. I quickly gulp the water down and the pill with it. Ito's smile is replaced by a look of professional concern. If I thought I could get it to work, I'd suggest something a little more permanent. Setting the empty glass aside, I ask, "Oh, like what?" Crossing his arms, he leans back against the kitchen counter. "Well, there are neural implants that can be modified to affect certain aspects of the brain. They're incredibly expensive, but with the proper modifications, they would provide a more permanent solution than these pills do. They would be able to stabilize chemical imbalances in the brain in a constant, reliable manner. They wouldn't be any kind of cure, but they would allow you to live a more normal life without needing a constant supply of outside medication." After a moment's silence, I look at him skeptically. "Yeah, I'm not sure about sticking a chip in my head, to be honest, even if it were an option." "If you're worried about it somehow altering your personality or something of the sort, don't be. All it would be doing is performing the same function as, say, Gerhard's cybernetic arm, filling in for an abnormal deficiency in the body. In this case, helping to monitor certain chemical levels that your brain isn't able to properly maintain." Yeah, I say slowly, old cultural habits swirling through my head about brain chips. "Well, I suppose so. But why bring it up now? Didn't you just say it's not an option?" "It's not an option at the moment, no. But I am still hopeful that I might be able to work something up at some point, and if that should happen, I think it would be a far better option than trying to maintain a potentially unreliable supply of medication. I may not always be available to keep you supplied." Heaving a quick sigh, I shrug. "I'll think about it." I find myself mildly annoyed at what I see as him being naively optimistic about all this. An unfair assumption, I suppose, but one that's difficult to avoid, all things considered. "That's all I ask," he says, shrugging expensively. "And before I forget," he reaches behind his back and holds up my old smartphone. "This is now fully recharged." He hands it to me with a little smile. Taking it from him, I look it over, tapping my fingers across the touchscreen to activate it. A smile, both happy and sad, forms at the thought of being able to see the last images I took of my family before losing them forever. As I activate my old phone, Ito explains, "I did attempt to dial into the city's cell net as a test, but as I suspected, it didn't detect the network at all. Neither did my local network detect the new device, unknown or otherwise, when I attempted to connect your phone to it. But I did remember you saying something about using it to take pictures, so at least you have that." My thumb stops just before bringing up the photos of Vanessa and Brian. It hits me that I should wait until I have a private moment to view them. Looking up at Ito, I quietly tell him, "Thank you." "You're quite welcome," he replies warmly. "Gerhard will be here soon. Let's get started." He pushes off from the counter, then pauses. "You know, we got a number of compliments about the coffee in the waiting room. Seems to be a bit of a hit. You still feel up to maintaining that?" "Absolutely," I say cheerfully. Ito nods approvingly, and we get to work. The day goes smoothly enough, if a bit hectically. While I'm not kept nearly as busy as Ito and Gerhard, I still struggle to keep up with everything I'm asked to do. I'm not used to it being so busy, but I do my best to keep up with the nearly endless stream of requests for a bottle of replacement lubricant fluid, cyber blood, or some other item needed to treat a patient. Sometime around late afternoon, Alita enters the clinic as I'm setting out a fresh pot of coffee for the waiting room. The mood in the waiting room, already fairly pleasant, brightens considerably as various patients smile and greet her. She returns their greetings brightly, but her own demeanor is more subdued. I end up doing a bit of a double take upon seeing her. At some point in the day, she changed into a miniskirt, solid black stockings, and a light jacket. If she were wearing gloves, you'd never know that she had a mechanical body. Large eyes aside, not twice the size as I'd originally thought, but only about 40% larger than normal, she looks like any normal young woman. When she comes to a stop near me, I look up at her and say without thinking, "Well, you're looking lovely, if you don't mind my saying so." Immediately I cringe inwardly. A man my age saying something like that to a woman so much younger than I am? An inner voice sarcastically quips, "Yeah, that's not going to look just a little creepy." Not to mention, there have been very few women in my life I've ever felt comfortable enough to be so open like that, so it's not something I normally do. Alita seems faintly surprised by my comment and flashes an appreciative, if short-lived smile. "Oh, thank you." Her expression becomes somber. "Could I talk to you privately?" "Sure." I finish with the coffee and follow her as she leads me to the kitchen area. Setting the empty tray I used for the coffee onto the table, I ask her, "What's up?" There's that feeling again of something terrible waiting to happen. Pulling up a chair, she sits and leans forward, resting her elbows on her knees. "Ito told me you were concerned about that woman who gave you the necklace, Alondra. So I found out where she lived from some people who knew her to check in on her." There's a faint shock, kind of like being smacked right between the eyes, making me blink a couple times rapidly. I think to myself, knew her? What do you mean, knew her? But I remain silent. Her eyes go to the floor for a moment, then back to mine. When I got to her apartment, I found out from her neighbor, Sophia, that she was gone. "What do you mean, gone?" The question is asked as if by reflex. I already know the answer. Quietly, Alita replies, "From what Sophia tells me, they think she committed suicide. Either this morning or last night." She looks at me steadily. There's a stretch of silence where I stare past Alita as the world takes on an aspect of unreality. Then I lean back heavily in my wheelchair, and say, "Huh." There's no rush of emotion or anything like that. Just, huh. "You gonna be okay?" she asks gently, a hint of concern glowing in her eyes. Dipping my chin in a quick nod, I focus in on her and say, "Yeah, I'm fine. Just a little surprised, I guess. Certainly didn't expect to hear that." The corners of her mouth turn up in a sad, sympathetic little smile. "Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Was she someone you knew?" "No," I reply a bit vacantly, staring off into space again. "Hadn't ever met her before yesterday." "I see." There's a pause as if she considers saying something. Then she stands up. "Well, I need to head off. I just wanted to stop by to let you know." "You sure you'll be okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine," I say, waving off her concern. "Like I said, the news just caught me off guard. Thank you for doing that." With a final goodbye, she heads off as I return to work. The remainder of the day goes by in a bit of a blur, with everything feeling somewhat distant as I work through Alita's news. I just can't seem to let it go. I feel as if I failed Alondra somehow, yet I'd never met her before our brief interaction. That evening at dinner, I spend more time staring vacantly at my food than eating any of it. After helping Ito clean up, I turn in early. There's a heaviness to my body as I crawl into bed, making it feel as if gravity has been turned up. Next morning, I'm up before sunrise. Laying in bed, I listen to the sounds of the city outside, as well as the building around me. Staring up at the darkened ceiling, my mind replays my interactions with Alondra, as well as her elderly neighbor, Sophia. All at once it hits me what I'd been missing. The look in Alondra's eyes, her mannerisms. I'd seen them before in the mental hospital, on the faces of suicidal patients. I'd seen them on my own face in the mirror. Another human being dealing with a hurt you're well familiar with was reaching out for help in those little ways that people do when they have no idea how to ask for help or feel they have no one to turn to, hisses that little voice in the back of my head. You were just another person she couldn't turn to. You let her down when you should have known better. I did know better. I should have seen what was happening right in front of me. The signs were all there for anyone with a brain to see, but I was too blind and stupid to see them. Just as you've always been, that voice hisses. She didn't have to die. She wouldn't have either if you were worth a damn. The screws continue to turn, slowly but steadily driving home how irresponsible, how negligent I was. And of course I was. One of the things that I've always tried to see as an upside to my illness was that, with everything I've been through, surely I could use that to help someone in a similar situation. I've always taken a bit of pride in the thought that somehow I would be able to help someone when they need it most. But when the time came to do just that, I failed. I had a chance to make a real impact on someone's life as they went through their own descent into that same darkness, and completely fucked it up, leaving them to die alone. Finally deciding it's time to turn away from this train of thought, I force myself up, sidle to the edge of the bed, and retrieve my smartphone off the seat of my wheelchair where I'd left it. Scooting back, I sit with my back against the headboard. If I feel, I turn on my old phone and pull up the pictures I'd taken while playing with its functions. They were taken over the course of a few days, mostly out in the yard around the apartments. Vanessa hated having her picture taken, so most of the pictures are of her dodging the camera while her youngest, Brian, is in the background hamming it up with silly faces. Seeing these most recent reminders of their faces, even if some are just blurry glimpses of hers, helps to lighten my mood. Sifting through the pictures, I stumble across an unexpected find. A short, minute-plus long video. I must have accidentally activated the record function while fumbling with the controls back then. I play the video and watch the little scene play out. Vanessa and I are in the little kitchen area of our apartment, with her sitting on the table dealing with some paperwork of some sort. I was screwing around with the camera when Brian comes in and says something to Vanessa that the microphone doesn't pick up, but sounds like it might have been one of those random off-color comments that he sometimes makes when he's not thinking. Vanessa immediately turns into a dick joke. Such a reaction was almost like a reflex for her. "Mom!" Brian exclaims indignantly, turning slightly red. "That's not what I meant." Vanessa and I both bust up laughing. Vanessa more so than me. She always did love to occasionally screw with her kids, like a mischievous older sister at times. Between gasps of laughter, she manages to get out, "You know I'm not a mature audience." And she breaks down the laughter again, lightly slapping the tabletop. A slow smile forms on my lips as a chuckle escapes me, but the smile fades as I continue to watch the recording. In a way, it's almost like watching strangers now. While this is still a happy memory, I don't really recognize the man that was standing in that kitchen. It's nearly impossible to imagine that this was me over a year ago. Putting the video on repeat, I lay down on my side, setting the phone on the bed near my face. I curl up around it and fall asleep to the familiar sounds of my family. I dream. "Here, you can have this," Alondra says with a faint smile. "I don't need it anymore. I'm finally going to be free." Then she begins falling to pieces, blood spreading in a crimson pool on the ground. The last thing to hit the ground is her head. It lands so that her face is up towards the sky, eyes closed, her expression one of serene calm. Hey, you overslept. Blinking the sleep out of my eyes, I look up at Alita standing over me with one hand on my shoulder. Oh, hell, I mutter. It feels like I'm trying to move through wet cement. Can I see? Alita asks, taking her hand from my shoulder and gesturing toward my smartphone. Let me try that again. Can I see? Alita asks, taking her hand from my shoulder and gesturing toward my smartphone, still playing the video recording. Yeah, sure. I hand her the phone and realize I never bothered getting undressed last night. I feel a little grimy, but decide to forego taking the time to change clothes or shower since I'm already late for work. My mind berates me for yet another string of failures. Alita's face lights up as she watched the interplay on the little video screen, and I pause to watch her reaction. She glances at me. I'd have liked to have met her. Unable to express the faint smile, I let out a short, quiet laugh. I think she'd have liked you. An honest assessment. I really do think the two of them would have gotten along. The thought brings a keen pang of heartache. Alita smiles brightly at that before handing the phone back to me. I take it, power it down, and set it on my nightstand. Then I settle myself into my wheelchair and we head down. Over the following days, life goes on, as I continue to try to settle into what my life has become. However, much as I try to fight it, everything seems to rapidly become more distant. Depression drains the energy out of me, leaving little for me to direct towards anything but the most necessary activities. I do the work I'm directed to do, put on a friendly face, and keep to myself, unable to find the energy to really interact with anyone outside of the bare minimum. Life becomes a meaningless gray blur of waking up, doing the work I'm assigned around the clinic, putting on a false smile for those around me, and going to bed. Sometimes I even manage to sleep. The others, busy with preparing for Alita's upcoming game, leave me be. It's a little surprising how quickly I fall, how everything seems to get inverted. There are moments when I wonder what might have set off this latest descent into depression. Was it finding out about Alondra's suicide? Was it seeing the video of my family, hearing their voices again? Was it a combination of those things? The wondering quickly falls to silence as I sit in my room with the lights out, pretending to be asleep so I'm not a bother to anyone else. They have far more important things to worry about. The emptiness eating away at me the emptiness eating away at me inside hurts a lot. But it's my problem and I won't burden anyone else with it. Something within decides I've been enough trouble as it is, and my absence would no doubt be a welcome change. A day later, on this particular night, I'm sitting in my room in my wheelchair with just a little lamp on my nightstand providing a dim illumination. Staring out the window at the night sky, my mind filled with a slow jumble of chaotic thoughts, unable to fix on any one of them. Earlier, I had excused myself from dinner before finishing half of it, telling Ito I wasn't feeling well. Today wasn't a particularly good day. The normally even-tempered Ito was badly stressed enough that he lost his patience, snapping at me on a couple of occasions over some minor screw-ups. Meanwhile, Gerhard was forced to leave early, which did nothing to improve his mood. As it turned out, she had come down with some sort of flu-like illness. When she left, she was already looking pretty bad. Ito assures me it's nothing that a few days' rest won't fix. As my mind begins toying with the idea that my being here is placing far too much strain on someone who certainly doesn't need it, and that perhaps it's time I did something to fix that, there's a knock at the door. Without turning around, I call out, "Come in." There's the quiet creak of the door opening, then soft footfalls that I recognize as Ito's. Sure enough, he enters my eye's peripheral vision and sits himself on the corner of the bed. "Hello," he begins. "I'm not intruding, am I?" His tone is his more polite, even-tempered self again. Keeping my gaze fixed on the lights at the top of a tall building in the distance, I answered it listlessly. "No." He nods. Almost apologetically, he says, "I'm afraid we have a bit of a problem." Immediately, my mind jumps to the conclusion, what is it I fucked up this time? Turning to at least look in his direction, I ask, "What is it?" Ito pulls in a breath before answering. "I know you haven't been doing very well lately, and I'm sorry about that. However, I'm afraid the next few nights are very important. Alita's team has done well enough that if they can beat this new team they're going up against, they'll be able to forego having to face them again this month. This will catapult them a full ranking in the league, placing them quite a bit closer to the championship." I nod slowly, staring at him. "Okay." I have a feeling I know where this is going, and I'm not particularly happy about it. But then he doesn't seem all that thrilled either. Being the team's tuner, I can't afford to miss these next few games. I have to be there to make sure everything works properly. With Gerhard laid up as she is, I'm afraid there'll be no one here to take care of you. My brain hears, we can't be bothered with you anymore. Right then and there, I nearly start packing my things, believing that I'm about to be kicked out. Instead, I calmly say, "Okay." He purses his lips as if thinking before going on. "As a result, I think I'm going to need to take you along with me." As if worried that I'll interrupt, he hurries on. You'll be with me in the pit, not in the stands. So at least you won't have to worry about a rowdy crowd of fans possibly causing you trouble. You can just sit out of the way and enjoy the show. No one will bother you. I'll see to it, all right?" In my current state of mind, I'd almost prefer getting kicked out on the street. Almost. I can easily understand his problem. He can't leave me unattended. If something were to happen, I'd be damn near helpless on my own. Something also tells me that he's worried I might get into something dangerous. The thought that he won't leave me here like that is actually comforting. Deciding to change up my monosyllabic answers, I respond, "All right." This is followed by a rather involuntary sigh of resignation. He spreads his hands in a gesture of helplessness. "I'm sorry, Jason. If there were any other option, it's all right, really." And I mean it sincerely. Because he does actually have another option. All my possessions are already inside my footlocker, and this wheelchair isn't actually mine. It would take him very little effort to evict me and all sign that I was ever here, out onto the street, and that would be the end of it. He and his adopted daughter would have their house back, free of a troublesome stranger. The fact that he's not even presenting that as a possibility is almost enough to bring me to tears. The feeling of undeserved kindness nearly tears my heart out. "All right then," he says. With a nod, he stands up. He takes a step towards the door, then stops and turns around. "Tomorrow's likely to be a very busy day. I know you haven't been getting much sleep, so I'd recommend something to help you sleep." "Sure," I say. Fear of addiction has kept me away from a lot of drugs, even if they're normally safe. But right now, I'm desperate enough that I don't argue. I just don't have the energy anyway. When he leaves to get the sleep aid, I try to stifle another sigh and turn back to the window. Despite still feeling heavily depressed and hurting, something about that exchange leaves me feeling a little better. Maybe it's the realization he's not giving up on me that easily. My depression-addled mind tries to reject such a sentiment, but our discussion at the breakfast table the other day helps to quiet those doubts, even if it doesn't dispel them entirely. End of chapter.
Wow, there's a lot of depth in that chapter.
Well,
One thing. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's one of those things I kind of struggled with, was kind of like trying to I'm not sure how to put it. It's sort of how much to put in and in what way to put it down, because I was trying to make sure it came across the way I was hoping it would come across, and I think I managed it.
Yes, you did. As AKA says, what a sad chapter. R.I.P. Alondra.
Yeah.
One thing that occurred to me too when he was watching the video on his smartphone was that he said this was me a year ago, and really it was him 540 years ago. So there was
chronologically speaking, but
Yeah.
relatively speaking for him, it was
For him, it
much
was a year
more
ago, yeah.
recently than that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just goes to show, well, I mean, I guess the word I'm looking for is is like, the theory of relativity. You travel like that. If you could travel through a time anomaly, the perception of the person that goes through it is different than it would be had he lived for that 540 years.
Yep.
Is kind of where I was going with that. So
Yeah. Basically, he cheated. He short-circuited the whole bit and just kind of ended
Yeah.
up on the other end there.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. It just shot in my mind immediately. He said, "That's me a year ago," and I thought, "No, that's you 540 years ago."
Yeah.
So yeah. Maxie, you with us, or did you fall asleep from waking up so early?
I didn't fall asleep. What are you crapping on about? I was just being patient. You know what that is? No.
No, I do not.
Mhm.
Actually,
So
I do.
another exciting and uplifting chapter full of fun and whatever am I trying to keep?
Yep.
Uplifting. Yeah, can you say that? And
I-
AKA thought that was funny as well.
Another
slash
lighthearted
sarcasm.
jaunt through Iron City.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Another thing I think it strikes me too is the effect that Iron City would have on some people. If it was a real city and it drove that Alondra to commit suicide because she just felt hopeless. I mean, it beat her down so much that she just felt like there was no reason to live.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I took from that chapter. I remember reading that some time ago, and I thought, oh man, I mean.
Well, some of Alondra is actually a young woman that I met in the mental hospital.
Ah.
Yeah. So she is very loosely based off of a real person that I met years ago at Travis Air Force Base.
Wow. Yeah, let's see what AKA says. That's one thing I've always wondered about it. People are bounty hunted for committing crimes, and it'd be a strong deterrent. And yet there's so much crime. Yeah.
That's the thing. Deterrents don't help that much when there's enough desperation. People desperate enough will take that risk.
When you have no choice, you have no choice.
Yeah. And not to mention that they only get bounty hunted if it involves them killing somebody or damaging factory property. If they do anything else, if they rape somebody, if they rob somebody, if they mug them, if they beat them to within an inch of their life, that doesn't get them a bounty marker.
It does if they beat up somebody who works at the factory and then can't.
Yes, because that counts as damaging factory property.
Yes.
What was interesting in the movie, in Alita Battle Angel, if you remember the kiosk, that were stationed around the city, that seemed like there were some really minor criminals. I mean, it had, I think one of them had like 1,200 credits or something, which who knows how much money that is.
Yeah.
And then in dollars anyway, or pounds or whatever. But, and when Hugo certainly was framed, for killing Demetrius Polito's character rather, he had 30,000 credits on his head. So it strikes me, maybe Lee, that maybe they do care to the point that even a minor crime, if it has any impact on the factory's productivity, that's what gets you on the kiosk for the beat to be hunted, you know.
Yeah.
Unless you're working for Nova, in which case you never go on the queue.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. If you're Gruishka, who has killed, what is it, 6 people before that he happened to run into Alita, yeah, then yeah, he wasn't on any kiosk. In other words, it was as I guess as Clive Lee of the White Hot Palm said, there's no bounty on this guy, Doc. It's not our problem, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, there was also that one patient that Ito had in the movie that he got his limbs taken off.
Yeah.
And he said that the jackers stripped him right in front of a centurion. The centurion did nothing.
Yeah.
Because it just didn't care, because he wasn't factory property, really.
Yeah.
So it didn't do anything to impede the factory, and it wasn't leading to the death of anyone. So
yeah. I guess the only positive thing about all that in Iron City is they still take murder seriously. So
yeah, that's something at least.
Yeah, that's very little, but I mean, it is something. So yeah, but stealing from somebody else doesn't impact the factory. They don't give a rat's ass. You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, they just, okay, no problem. You know, it doesn't help. It doesn't hurt us. So we're not going to put a bounty on your head, you know.
So yeah, that was 15 and 16. So about a chapter and a half.
Yeah. Well, I say that, Lee, since you started struggling there at the end, you know, kind of reading it and speaking and stuff like that, we probably should wrap up.
Well,
you know.
part of that was that's one of my least favorite chapters because of the subject matter.
Yeah, the sadness of it and that kind of thing. Yeah.
So yeah, that was part of it. But
yeah, that when I read that chapter, it got to me a little bit, you know.
So I think I could probably do the next one if, you know, people are up for it. If not, you know, we can leave that for
What do you guys, what do you think, Maxie? Of course, I think Maxie's an author. He would stay here till midnight. Well, it wouldn't be midnight this time, but
well, I got to be quiet because my wife's got a migraine. So.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry to hear that. Yeah, those suck badly.
Yeah.
And I guess AKA says, up to you, Lee. You know, if you want to do it, we'll do it. I mean, I love stories about Alita, you know, for sure. And in this case, Jason. But if I know we got some folks in the chat that are not, you know, putting any kind of comments, and you don't have to, but, you know, I guess if I don't see any negative comments, you know, because some folks might be.
Well, if they're lurking, they're probably just happy to be lurking and willing to. So.
Yeah. So I will take that as a yes. We want to hear more. That's what
let me take a quick look here.
I'll take a quick 5-minute break, Lee.
All right.
Why don't we do that, and we'll come right back.
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
After a word from our sponsors. No, we don't have any sponsors.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back in 5 minutes, folks.
Close that out. Yes. 15. 16. So I should do real quick. Yeah, okay. So yes, chapter 17 is the motorball game. So how's your story been coming along, Max? Yeah, he's probably not there right now. Oh, howdy, Stan.
Oh, looks like we got a couple of folks out there in the chat. Stan J, how's it going, man? Glad you're here.
Starting to get a little worried about this cough. It wasn't too bad there for a while, but
Well, you want to call it a show, Lee?
no, I'd like to get to 17. 17 is one of
Okay.
my favorite chapters because that's the motorball game that Jason goes to, the first one.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
bit more upbeat,
Yes.
despite there being a bit of a problem that Jason has early on in the chapter.
Well, I'd love to certainly end on an upbeat note after that
Mhm.
last one. Yeah. So. Okay, folks, I guess, Lee, you got it. You just keep going.
All righty. Chapter 17, Motorball. The night passes without nightmares, at least none that I can remember. While I feel more rested, I don't feel more energetic, but at least the fatigue isn't clouding my mind as badly. The world around me remains isolated from me behind a glass wall, clearly visible but meaningless and untouchable. The sky outside isn't quite sunlit just yet, so it's at least just before dawn. Letting go a heavy, tired sigh, I get myself out of bed and go about getting a shower. It's still awkward and cumbersome to try and wash myself with only one arm, but I manage to make use of the stump of my left to help out a bit more. After getting out and dried off, I make use of the mirror that's been set up at my level to shave with. Being robbed of motivation to even see the point in bothering with much of life leaves me to go through the motions mechanically. It's by rote practice that I get through brushing my teeth, then shaving. When I'm done, I pause, looking over the grayish-looking face that's visible. With dark circles around the eyes, it's an unsmiling, tired-looking face. The rush of thoughts pours through my mind. Why am I even bothering with all this? What's the point? I am so very tired. It's a waste of time. I'm wasting everyone's time here. What good am I even being here besides taking up space? And on and on and on. An unending march of despair that feels like it'll go on forever. It's as if each day is a prison cell, and when night comes, I'm just transferred to another prison cell, never to be free. As if in slow motion, I watch the muscles in my jaw tighten as a surge of anger boils up. My hand clenches tightly around the electric razor I'm still holding, and the impulse to smash it into that face in the mirror nearly blanks out my vision. A thought flashes through my head. The razor Alita bought me. My hand stops, arm halfway through the motion. I sit there for a second as the anger suddenly drains away, and I relax my grip on the razor. Reminding myself that this razor was given to me by someone who spent the time and energy to help me serves to cool my anger. It also allows me the time to realize I was just about to destroy Ito's mirror, another sin that I'd be committing against the people who've done so much to help me. The anger drains away completely, and I let my arm fall to the armrest of my wheelchair. That voice in my head that spouts the constant stream of self-directed insults and denigrations drones on, and I turn away from the mirror. Shut the fuck up, I mutter deliberately, closing my eyes and slowly shaking my head. The stream of noise quiets, if only for a moment. Then I take a deep breath, get dressed, and head out to deal with the day to come. Today isn't particularly busy, so even with Gerhard's absence, things don't go too badly. However, I am called upon to assist Ito rather frequently, an experience I find to be nerve-wracking. The specter of failing, of screwing up so badly that I somehow damage Dr. Ito's practice and possibly his reputation, hounds me every time I assist him with a patient. If I were in a more rational state of mind, the idea that I alone could somehow bring down something that Ito spent years building would be laughable. As it is, I am not in a rational state of mind, and the medication alone isn't enough to change that. I do my best to focus on each individual task, trying to get through each hour without everything going sideways on me, and as a result, failing Ito. Due to the numerous preparations she and her team must see to before tonight's game, Alita is absent for pretty much the entire day. According to Ito, she would likely be helping to fill in for Gerhard otherwise. For that reason alone, I find myself wishing Alita were here right now. The slow but steady stream of patients drops off towards evening, before finally stopping altogether about an hour or so before closing. Seeing the empty waiting room, Ito decides to close up early. We clean up, and he calls Kiyomi for a ride. Normally, I just take a taxi, Ito explains as we wait for Kiyomi's arrival. However, he gestures in my general direction. Glancing down at my wheelchair, I fill in, yeah, ain't exactly going to fit in a taxi, am I? I have yet to see any kind of taxi, or even a non-cargo vehicle in general, that's more than a glorified golf cart. Ito grunts and nods as he pulls on a light jacket. Then he helps me into my field jacket and steps back to look me over appraisingly. That jacket's rather heavy for this weather, he observes. Does it make you feel more comfortable, more secure? Yeah, I guess it does, I say, making some minor adjustments to better settle the jacket. Pursing his lips and nodding, Ito says, well, if it helps you feel less exposed, then I have something that may help a bit. He heads off briefly, returning with a broad-brimmed hat similar to the one he wore on our trip out to the Badlands. Here, he hands me the hat. Having something to cover your head may help put you at ease. Thank you, I reply hesitantly, surprised at his thoughtfulness. Putting the hat on, I adjust it, catching sight of myself in the reflection of an inactive display screen. The sight puts me in mind of Indiana Jones. Well, more or less. Ito reaches out and makes a very slight adjustment to the hat. Gerhard and Alita bought this one for me. It was supposed to replace my old one, but I'm just too attached to it. He steps back and tilts his head slightly to one side. This one looks good on you. You can keep it if you like. I can't help but smile a little at that. Thanks. Though I stopped wearing them for the most part, I've always liked hats, especially this style of hat. I go to say more than a mere thanks, wanting to say something, anything more, but no words come. Before long, we see Kiyomi's van pull up outside the glass doors. Ito and I go out to meet her, with Ito pausing to lock up as we exit the building. Kiyomi climbs out of the driver's seat and waves at us with a smile. Hi, guys. Ito returns her greeting just as cheerfully while I manage a small wave and what I hope is an approximation of a smile. My stomach starts doing little flip-flops. This is the part I've been dreading, heading out to the arena. The two of them go around to the back of the van, open it up and pull out the ramp, setting it up for use. Ito gestures me over and I make my way up to them, to then make my way up the shallow incline of the ramp into the back of the van. All the while, my new hat is pulled down low and I try my best to ignore the stares of the passers-by. Ito pulls the ramp in after himself and the two of us settle in. He knocks twice on the forward wall and the van gently lurches into motion. As we travel, I begin to experience a vague sense of confusion, as if my brain is saying, weren't we just doing something else a moment ago? How did I get here? It's a sensation I've experienced on occasion over the years, and it often leaves me feeling unsettled in an otherwise perfectly normal situation. Unfortunately, that's not the worst problem I'm left dealing with. As we get closer to the arena, it becomes increasingly difficult not to focus on the fact that there are going to be very large, very dangerous cyborgs that I will likely be in close proximity to. Memories come back to me of a thick, powerfully built cyborg arm coming up at blinding speed to deliver a backhand blow to the right side of my head. The world spins and I'm face down on the pavement, blood streaming from the tip of my nose. I can't see out of my right eye anymore. Then the crunching of bone as something powerful and heavy impacts the back of my knee, sending white-hot agony shooting through me. My mind is pulled away from those thoughts when Ito asks, holding up all right? With a nod, I reply, yeah. I admit we were caught a little off guard by your reaction to Landra's death. Ito's gaze goes unfocused as he stares off in the distance for a second. She was a good person. Frowning heavily, I nod. Yeah, I gathered that. Even with the short talk we had, I found her really likable. My gaze sinks to the floor of the van. My reaction caught me off guard too. I didn't expect my depression to kick up so badly, so quickly. My jaw tightens as I fight for something more meaningful to say, and fail. Do you blame yourself for what happened, in some way? A moment's pause as I draw in a deep breath and let it out through my nose. Yeah, I suppose I do. You shouldn't, Ito says firmly. There certainly wasn't anything you could do. His reassuring words sound like lies to my ears. Lowering my head slightly, I hide my eyes behind the brim of the hat. We sit in silence, rocked by the gentle swaying of the van as it travels Iron City's badly maintained roads. Anger finally gets the better of me. I've been there, I state flatly. Looking up at him, I narrow my eyes just a little. Been so close to suicide, I was inches away from doing it more than once. An angry scowl creeps into my voice. I knew what to look for, but I was so fucking blinded by my own problems that I missed the signs. I want to add more, I want to add more about how I let a good person die, but emotions choke off my voice. Probably just as well. Another stretch of silence, then Ito says quietly, his voice low and intense. I don't really think there was much you could have done, even if you had realized what she was about to do. Lowering my head again, I hide behind the brim of the hat to conceal the tears I try to squeeze away. I no longer have any interest in talking about it. The only other sound Ito makes is a quiet, lengthy sigh of what sounds like resignation. Meanwhile, my anxiety continues to mount. I feel like I might be physically sick. I keep my head down, hiding behind the brim of the hat Ito gave me. I take long, slow breaths, trying to keep my anxiety from overtaking me. As best I can, I focus on just keeping myself as far away from those memories of the attack as possible. I focus on the fabric of my jeans, the feel of my thumb running over the tips of my fingers, anything to keep me anchored to right here and right now. It also helps to calm emotions stirred up by the talk about Alondra. The van slows to a stop, then Ito quickly gets the rear doors open and pulls the ramp out. He waves me forward, and I carefully drive down it. Once I'm down, Ito slides the ramp back into the van and closes the rear doors. Sticking her head and one arm out the window, Kiyomi bids us a cheerful farewell. Ito and I wave goodbye as she drives off. Turning to Ito, I ask, "Is she not able to join us?" Being as she's a friend of Alita, I'd have figured Kiyomi would have access to the pit area. Ito shakes his head. She does on occasion, but tonight she has some friends she'll be joining in the stands. He sets off walking towards what looks like a service entrance. Following after him, I take a surreptitious look around. There's not a lot of foot traffic, but there is the movement of boxes and crates in and out of the large service entrance that's big enough to drive 2 semi-trucks through side by side. Next to it is a smaller door for personnel. People in what look like uniforms are going about their business. No doubt arena employees. A number of full cyborgs with heavy-duty bodies, obviously meant for moving large cargo, are also evident. A few of the various employees send obvious glances towards me. A couple of them stare openly. We head through the personnel door, and he leads me through a maze of wide corridors. Though it's not crowded, there's a steady stream of people through the hallways. A number of them outright stare at the limbless guy in the wheelchair. I keep my eye firmly on Ito as I follow him, feeling exposed and uneasy. Eventually, we get to a locker room. At least that's what one of the signs out in the hallway seems to indicate. It's certainly not like any locker room I've ever seen before. While one half of it appears very similar to any locker room you might see in a sports stadium, the other half is larger, but filled with stalls containing machinery that I'm guessing are for transferring a player's cybercore into the often huge and sometimes monstrous-looking bodies used on the motorball track. Of the 10 stalls that are visible, only one is open, and even though I can't quite see into it, there's obvious signs of the robotic arms and other machines contained within. From that, I can guess that the other 9 are much the same. In the locker half of the room is a small gathering of people. Some of them are in powerfully built motorball bodies, towering over 2 other individuals. The 2 regular-sized individuals have some obvious cyberware and matching jumpsuits with purple and gray trim. Ito greets them, and the gathering greets him in return with varying levels of enthusiasm. All of the players have at least half their armor painted purple. One of the players, standing at only a little under 7 feet tall with a more slender build, says to Ito, "Hi, Doc. You're early. Alita's not even ready yet." The face is hidden behind a helmet, but the voice is that of a young woman. Ito shrugs lightly. There weren't any patients this evening, and it didn't look like there were going to be any showing up, so we closed a little early. He turns to gesture toward me. "This is Jason, the guest I mentioned." A few of them say hello, but for the most part they quietly nod their greetings. I quietly wave back at them. The sight and sounds of heavy machine bodies puts my teeth on edge and makes my muscles involuntarily tense up. On some level, I keep expecting one of them to take a swing at me. Ito gestures to each one in turn, starting with the one who mentioned Alita, and introduces them. "This is Saza." He then indicates a young man with Asian features and angular armor holding headgear reminiscent of a samurai helmet. "This is Takata." He moves on to 2 others with similar-looking medium body designs. "Roberto and Bannock." Then he gestures to the last 2 players with heavy-duty builds and designs like something out of a military sci-fi movie. "RJ and Roman." Of those introduced, only Saza is wearing a helmet currently. Roman nods again to me. "Pleased to meet you, Jason." I return the nod, saying nothing as my brain stumbles and trips over a perfectly normal greeting. One of the people wearing a jumpsuit takes a half step forward. Both of his arms are obviously cybernetic, and under the dark purple baseball-style cap, it's easy to see that from his nose up, most of his head is artificial. Probably some form of reconstructive surgery. With a rather gruff manner, he says, "I'm Malcolm, the lead mechanic." He gestures to the other person, a woman wearing the same style jumpsuit, with the right side of her head, including the eye and ear, having been replaced with cybernetics. This is Jen. Jen and I exchange abbreviated greetings. Malcolm returns his attention to me with a stern expression. I don't mind you being down in the pit, but keep out of the way, got it? He shoots an annoyed glance at Ito. I'm about to answer when I hear Alita behind me. He's not going to be any trouble, Mal. I turn to look over my left shoulder to see Alita in her sleek motorball body, colored metallic purple with silver trim, coming out of the open stall along with a man wearing a jumpsuit identical to the other two mechanics. A heavy, armored-looking door slides out of the ceiling and locks in place over the stall Alita just emerged from, no doubt securing her regular body still inside, where it will await her return. Malcolm grunts in response. Maybe so, but I don't need gawkers getting underfoot while I'm trying to get my team back on the track. Alita glides over on the motorized inline wheels that her current body's equipped with and stops beside me. He's not here to be a gawker. He's only here because Ito needs to keep an eye on his patient for now. She looks down at me with a smile and puts a hand on my shoulder. How are you holding up? The warmth of her smile and the concern in her voice seems to transform what would have been anxiety-inducing into the reassuring gesture I'm sure she meant it to be. In that moment, her presence becomes a welcome relief, and I actually feel a little bit safer for her being there. I manage to relax enough that I'm able to summon a faint smile. Well enough, I guess. Looks like I'll finally get to see you in action. You've never seen her play? Roman almost sounds offended at the idea. I offer a half-hearted shrug. Aside from some snippets on a view screen, not really, no. Looking around, it seems like just about everyone there seems surprised to learn that. Malcolm's expression seems to indicate that I just dropped a peg or two in his already low estimation of me. Inwardly, I find myself bristling at the look he gives me. Alita gestures at the young man who emerged from the stall with her. Oh, and this is Lucas, Malcolm's other mechanic. Lucas and I exchange brief greetings. After that, I sit aside as a lot of them go over some possible tactics and details about the opposing players that they'll likely be dealing with during the course of tonight's game. Some of Alita's teammates glance in my direction, but I pretend not to notice. Malcolm brings the pre-game meeting to an end. All right, we gotta get going. Lucas, grab that other box of parts. He points to a small plastic crate sitting on the nearby bench next to the other such crate. Lucas lightly claps Alita on the shoulder. See you out there. Alita gives him a nod as he heads off to help Eddie. As everyone starts filtering out of the locker room, a few of Alita's teammates glance back at me. I overhear Roberta quietly ask, so if Doc's his physician, why is that guy in a wheelchair? Roman, the paladin next to him, shrugs. I think Alita was saying something about a neurological condition. As they head out of sight to the large entry to the arena, Sansa's voice drifts back to me. Hey, isn't he the guy that got torn apart by some junkie over in Ito's neighborhood? Then they're out of view. As unexpectedly as a flash of lightning, I feel like I've been hit in the gut. There's this shocking feeling like my face is buried in ice. The breath goes out of me, and I'm overcome by anger mixed with a sickening fear. My vision fades out, and I lock up physically and mentally as I fight the impulses to either flee that place or give in to raging violence. Alongside all of that is this conviction that I am not going out into that arena. My sight clears up as I feel Alita squeeze my shoulder. Hey, Jason, you all right? I look over and see her crouched down, looking a little alarmed. Behind her, Ito is also looking somewhat worried. I realize that my body is tensed up so tightly that my muscles are trembling. My hand is gripping the armrest so hard that my fingers hurt. I'm suddenly seized by this feeling like I'm going to vomit. An unexpected rage whips through me, and I feel an almost overwhelming urge to physically push her away and scream at her not to touch me. I'm stopped both by a fear of that sudden onslaught of rage and by the fact that my muscles are so tensed up that I can hardly move, let alone speak. To help fight that impulse, I close my eyes and force breath into my lungs. When I let it out, I feel a solid wave of nausea hit me. Through clenched teeth, I say, I think I'm going to throw up. Ito gestures to Alita. Get him into the restroom. She wastes no time in pushing me quickly through a smaller side door that leads into the toilet and shower area, faster than chair's electric motors would have managed. Feeling the gorge rising in the back of my throat, I slide off my wheelchair as soon as I'm close to one of the toilets and manage to get my head over the bowl just as the contents of my stomach are painfully and forcefully expelled into it. The effort of doing so causes my eyes to tear up. Awkwardly, I manage to get my glasses off so as to avoid the risk of them falling into the pool of vomit. The blood pounding in my ears as well as the sounds of retching render the words I hear Ito and Alita exchange behind me unintelligible. When it finally dies down a bit, I hear Ito say, They don't immediately need me. I've got him. When there's no reply, I assume she's left. I have to wonder if she's disappointed at my loss of control. I wonder why I should care what she thinks. Ito appears out of the corner of my eye, leaning against the stall door. I heave up the last of my guts and fall back against the side of the stall, panting and shaking. I wipe away the last traces of vomit, then take off the hat Ito gave me and set it on my lap. While the nausea has faded, there's still this sickening feeling, like when everything feels unreal, but worse. The surface of my body feels numb all over. I look up at Ito, not quite glaring at him. I still feel some anger, but it's as if I vomited out the rage that was boiling inside. His expression conveys only a calm, professional concern. Are you going to be all right? I feel a startlingly strong urge to laugh humorlessly at him. Instead, I nod. I think so. I realize I'm hugging myself. Despite the warm temperatures in my field jacket, I feel chilled and I'm shivering. Ito sighs softly in what sounds like irritation. Perhaps I should call Kiyomi, have her take you back to the clinic. It seems that bringing you here was indeed a mistake. A voice inside me is practically screaming, God, yes, get me the hell out of here. But something else in me rebels at the idea. As much as I didn't want to come here in the first place, some part of me is stubbornly insisting that I stay and see this through. I suppose that after having fought through this far, I'm not giving up now. I shake my head. No, I'm good. His eyebrows descend over his eyes as he looks at me with stern disbelief. You don't look good. And that, he gestures to the toilet I just had my face over, certainly isn't a good sign. I fight back a sudden onslaught of sobbing, shaking my head violently. No, I growl loudly, trying to maintain control. I can do it. Silent sobs begin shaking me as I'm unable to hold back the tears. Ito merely nods, looking very concerned now. All right. Just take a moment then. Distantly, I'm relieved. There was some certainty that when the tears started, he was going to call for me to be taken away back to the clinic. I sit there in that bathroom stall, in the locker room, in the motorball arena, and do what I can to let all the anger and pain out, hoping to quickly regain control. At first, I can't understand where all this is coming from. It seemed like I was getting a handle on things. You're certain you want to stay? Ito asks. Thinking about it for a moment, figuring I better be sure about this as I grab for some tissue paper to clean myself up, I make my decision. After cleaning myself a bit, I toss the ball of tissue into the toilet and nod. Yeah, I'm staying. Somehow, leaving now would feel like surrender, like losing. And I hate losing. All right then. Ito picks up the hat and places it back on my head. Let's get out there. I've already ignored 2 calls that are no doubt from Malcolm wondering where the hell I am. Ito helps me back into the wheelchair and then helps me get some water to rinse the vomit out of my mouth. Then it's back to the locker room and out the same way the others left through. About halfway down, Ito directs me down a side passage with a downward slope. Going straight out will take us to the track. We don't want to go there. This way comes out of the pit area. We pass through the brightly lit concrete tunnel, and sure enough, we emerge in the middle of the huge arena. Coming out of the tunnel is almost like being pummeled in the face, the sound of the crowds and stands hitting me even this far from them. I can feel the noise vibrating in my chest. Punctuating this is the voice of the announcer calling out commentary. Ahead of us is the pit area. The pit area is built around the base of a huge central tower. At the top of the tower is a circular glass observation deck of rather large proportions. The pit area is split into separate stalls divided by low walls, and each one wide enough that I could have almost parked 2 of my pickup trucks in it side by side. From what I've seen, they actually need all that space with how big some of the bodies used by the players can be. I recall seeing at least one player whose body looked to be about as big as my truck. There are more than enough stalls for the players of both teams, so each one is marked with a narrow color-coded banner showing the name and number of the player that a specific stall is reserved for. Around that is an area of flat concrete with markings delineating the appropriate lanes for players that come in off the main track. I notice that the game is already underway, having only just started. I look up at Ito. Sorry about making you miss the beginning of the game. He just shrugs and smiles. It's quite all right. The main thing is making sure Alita can stay in once the race is started. Besides, I'm your doctor before I'm a tuner. As we approach the section of the pit holding the maintenance bays for Alita's team, I consider what happened in the locker room's restroom. I was a little busy heaving my guts up, so I didn't really hear everything. She wasn't too angry about me disrupting the start of her game, was she? Ito looks down at me with faint surprise and says with a disbelieving laugh, "Not at all." He shakes his head slightly. "I think you give her too little credit, Jason. She wasn't upset about that. She was worried about you. I practically had to push her out the door so she wouldn't miss the start of the game." Oh. I know he's exaggerating, at least a little bit, but it's a reassuring feeling to know that I'm not viewed as a nuisance. At least not yet. I can't shake the feeling that I'm pushing my luck somehow, as if one more meltdown will see them losing all patience with me. And then, well, I try not to think about that. As we near the maintenance bays where Alita's team is operating out of, Malcolm comes out to meet us with an angry scowl. His calm tone is at odds with his expression. "Tried to call you a couple times. Everything okay, Doc?" We come to a stop and Ito answers, "I'm sorry about that. We had a minor medical emergency." He turns towards the enormous expanse of winding track that surrounds us. "Everyone get off the starting line okay?" Malcolm shoots a brief glare in my direction. "Starting lane went smooth. Now we'll see how well those fancy modifications you made to the team hold up." The chief mechanic obviously thinks my presence is disruptive, and in my current mood, I can't say I blame him. I tip my head forward a bit, lowering the brim of my hat in an attempt to hide my embarrassment. The two of them begin discussing the modifications that Malcolm referred to, specifically alterations to the team's motive gear and weapons. I decide my presence is unnecessary and quietly roll away to park myself at the very edge of the maintenance bay for Alita, hers being the only familiar name, staying close but as much out of the way as I can. I sit there for a while watching as the match unfolds. I can't follow everything that's happening due to my ignorance of the rules, so I settle for watching the two teams go at each other over the ball on the giant view screens placed strategically around the area. I feel like an observer watching everything going on through someone else's eyes. I'm surrounded by that insulated feeling. There's a constant level of anger that just doesn't seem to go away. Watching the players of both teams zip around this gigantic twisting track, I keep getting little snapshots of the attack I was subjected to, flashing through my head. I just want it to go away, and it won't. It's like so much else in my life now. I don't seem to have any control over it. I sit there feeling miserable and disconnected from the world around me when a thought occurs to me. That feeling of control was always an illusion. There is so much outside of ourselves that we have absolutely no control over. The only thing I can control, to some degree at least, is me. That was one of the main things I had drilled into me over the years as a Christian. You only really have dominion over yourself. Everything else you might be able to influence or temporarily direct in some way, but in the end, it's only your own choices that you have any real control of. Even then, you may have far less choice than you'd like. Choosing to try and stop that man from being murdered cost me my limbs and eye, and I have to accept that. I could have chosen to turn my back on him like everyone around me was doing, but I didn't. When I chose to become a soldier, I accepted that I might very well have to lay down my life, in order to fulfill the service it entailed. When I chose to become a Christian, I accepted that there were risks in following that path as well. Something that so many others who claim to be Christians seem to overlook is that the path of Christ comes with a warning label. You will be hated for my name's sake is one of those warnings. Basically, I think it boils down to follow in my path and suffer, but persevere and be eternally rewarded. Quite a few such details like that warning seem to get overlooked. Considering how many people seem to overlook such things, I long ago came to the conclusion that one of the main skills required for being a good Christian seems to be basic reading comprehension. Granted, I am by no means entirely innocent of forgetting or turning a blind eye to something I probably shouldn't have. Motion on one of the giant view screens draws my eye. Alita zigzags across the track in front of a member of the opposing team, running interference for her own teammate who's carrying the ball. She goes down low under the pickaxe-like weapon the opposing cyborg swings at her. As she zips past, she puts her left arm up in front of her, which currently has her sword clipped into the mounting that holds it, in a reverse position, with the point extending out past her elbow and slices into his knee. As she speeds away, her opponent loses his balance and tumbles down the track, his damaged leg separating at the knee and spinning off out of view. Details of Alita's conflict with the killer Gruishka float through my mind. When she and Ito were threatened by that monster, she chose to take the fight to him. That choice cost her a body and nearly her life. Whether it was service to my country or service to God, in both cases I chose to accept risks up to and including possible death. Part of why I chose to follow those paths is because I wanted to try and make the world a better place in some way. If it was true before I ended up here, should it be any less true now? As Alita pointed out, I saved that man's life. It was my duty as a Christian and a soldier, and it was a duty that I entered into willingly. Facing the aftermath of that choice will likely be made harder due to my mental illness, but I can make the choice to trust my new friends to help me through it. Almost as if on cue, that voice in the dark part of my mind whispers at me, and if they should turn on you, if they should let you down? With grim determination, I answer, then I'll burn that bridge if I come to it. My ruminations are interrupted as Ito walks up beside me. Feeling a little better? He asks. A little. I glance up at the view screens, now showing the players approaching positions where we'll be able to see them ourselves. Mostly thinking. Ito puts his hands in his pockets and nods. Mind if I ask what about? I take a steadying breath to look around to see if things are about to get busy, but for the most part, the pit crew is just making some last-minute adjustments here and there. Just thinking about a lot of things. The attack, what kind of future I can look forward to, why I'm struggling with so much with everything. I shrug at a loss for how to articulate it all. For a moment, Ito is quiet as we watch the two teams race past our vantage point. Are you worried your little breakdowns are going to make you unwelcome? I can't help but be impressed by his perceptiveness. Something like that. Years of hiding my problems from even close friends make me hesitant to answer. Well, it hasn't been anything I wasn't expecting to one degree or another. You haven't been violent, or anything of the sort, so I've tried to make it clear that you're in no danger of ending up on the street. He crosses his arms over his chest. It's going to be up to you to believe it, however. I nod. Yeah, it's just, when I think I might be finally doing that, it's like the ground crumbles out from under me. I exhale sharply in frustration. I just keep thinking. I shake my head as my mind tries to close up. I just keep thinking that I'm wrong, that I'm somehow imagining it. Another frustrated shake of my head. Stupid, I know. Ito's silent for a moment, then he just nods. He opens his mouth to say something when he's interrupted by Malcolm. Ito, Alita's coming in. Ito looks over at him with an alert intensity. What for? Weapons malfunction. Ito looks back at me. Sorry, Jason. I wave him off. Duty calls. He smiles and nods before going over to exchange some words with Malcolm. Then he heads past me into Alita's stall and walks over to a hefty-looking tool chest style box. He unlocks it, opens it, and begins going through the contents, carefully shifting items around. He glances up at me and motions me over. Curious, I head over to him and he motions me to park next to the steel table the tool chest is sitting on. I rigged up a copy of the plasma emitters in Alita's berserker body for her motorball body. It allows her to sheath her sword in plasma. Sounds like it's acting up. Yeah, she was telling me about that. Does it give you a lot of trouble? Smiling wryly, he nods. More than I'd like it to, yes. I did what I could, but he shakes his head, sounding mildly frustrated. Still, it works. Would have been nice if I could have copied over a couple of other systems as well. Momentarily forgetting everything else, I ask, like that nanotech self-repair system. He glances at me with a raised eyebrow. Oh, she told you about that, did she? Feeling as if I just slipped up again, I ask, was she not supposed to? Oh, nothing like that. It's just not something she's all that open about. Gives me an appraising look. You know, a number of people have said that you're pretty easy to talk to. Really? My eyes dart around a bit as I self-consciously try to find an appropriate response to that. Ito looks like he's about to say more when he glances past me. Ah, here she comes. From the bay next to us, Lucas calls over. Ito, Takata's coming in too, and you might need me and Jen. Malcolm's busy. You gonna be all right by yourself? I should be fine, Ito calls back as Alita rolls into her bay, removing her helmet. She locks her wheels, effectively turning her rollers into narrow feet as she gracefully steps into the little maintenance stand against the back wall, her sword still stowed in the mounting on her left forearm. She hangs her helmet on a nearby hook and spares a smile for me. I smile and nod in return, then sit back and try to keep out of the way. That damned emitter's out again, she complains. This is the third time this week, including practice matches. Ito nods. Well, it's still experimental. You should be thankful I was even able to replicate it at all, considering how advanced it is. Muttering quietly enough that I can barely make it out, he adds, it's a miracle I was even able to get the system to integrate with Earth Tech. He quickly and deftly removes the forearm plates on her right arm while asking, anything else? Thigh plate's cracked, otherwise I'm fine. She responds with a nod towards the indicated body part. The thigh plate in question has a rather nasty hole in it that's left visible cracks in the armor. While Ito goes about fixing whatever the problem is with Alita's plasma weapon and changing out the armor on her leg, he quietly talks with her. Being that I'm a number of meters away and there's still that roaring crowd and yammering announcer, I'm unable to make out any of it. After a little over a minute, Ito steps back, apparently finished. Okay, try that. Alita unclips her sword and holds it in front of her. The blade and her hand are immediately sheathed in blue fire. It's a startling effect and a little alarming, but cool as hell. She nods in satisfaction as the plasma field flickers out and she stows it back under her left forearm. And she grabs her helmet and, somewhat to my surprise, rolls over to stop in front of me. She leans in close, puts a hand on my shoulder, and looks at me intently. Hey, you're doing great, so stop worrying. We're not going to suddenly cut you loose, all right? If I have to, I'll bounce you down that track so it can sink in while Ito fixes you up again. Got it? Her stern expression softens as she gives me a faint but sincere smile. Her unexpected assurance leaves me a little stunned and a little self-conscious. It's a half-hearted effort I try to suppress an answering smile. Yes, ma'am. It's all I can manage as I nod to her. She gives one firm nod, pats me on the shoulder, and puts her helmet back on, her face settling back into that steely-eyed mask of determination she normally wears during games as she rolls off towards the track. Ito comes over to stand next to me. A little more convincing. I take in a deep breath and release it before answering, in order to calm a surge of emotion at Alita's unexpected display of reassurance. Yes. Yes, it was. He chuckles quietly. I thought she might have better luck getting through to you. She has that effect on people. I rub the back of my neck, still feeling a little embarrassed. Yeah, guess I'm a little slow at taking hits. Ito shrugs lightly. Sometimes these things just need a little bit of time to work out. He nods in the direction that Alita raced off in, as well as a little help. After that, I still stay off the side, but I find myself feeling a little more at ease. There's still an impulse to shy away from Alita's teammates, but staying inside her maintenance bay allows me to feel a little safer. With her sword sheathed in blue plasma, Alita's able to cut through the competition quickly, As the opposing team ends up spending so much time in the pit for repairs, Alita's team is able to rack up the points quickly by carrying the ball through each of the 3 red rings spaced around the track. There's bonus points for making a full lap with the ball through all 3 rings, which Alita and her teammates managed to do on a couple of occasions, allow them to really jack up the score in their favor. My attention more and more focused on the action around me, specifically watching Alita as she fights her way through the opposition, I find myself relaxing, even going so far as to enjoy the game a bit. During one lap, while Ito's busy a couple of bays over, seeing to a troublesome modification of Bannock's, a younger-looking man approaches me. Wearing casual clothing, he has a small device about the size of a paperback novel perched on his shoulder, and a lanyard from which hangs what appears to be a laminated press pass. A quick glance around, and now I notice that there are a couple more wandering about, talking to anyone not busy, but mostly players who are in for quick repairs. Guess they let the press down here after the first lap or something. "Hello there," the man says to me, extending a hand. Rather hesitantly, I take his hand and give it a firm shake, nodding to him in greeting. "Name's Alex." Releasing my hand, he gestures the device on his shoulder, which I now see as a recording device of some kind. "I'm a reporter for the Motorball League." From the tone of his voice, he seems to expect that to carry some kind of weight with me. I take note of the fact that the recording device looks to be currently inactive. Not feeling particularly talkative, especially to someone with a camera, I simply say, "Hi." Looking unfazed at my lack of interest, Alex says, "Mind if I ask you a few questions for the viewers?" A surge of annoyance compels me to say with a deadpan expression, "You know, despite the wheels, I'm not actually a motorball player." I find myself both curious as to why a reporter is talking to me, of all people here, and wishing he'd just go away. With an obviously insincere laugh, Alex replies, "Oh, I sort of figured. You would be..." After briefly toying with the idea of leaving him hanging, I tell him, "Jason." Try as I might, I just can't be that rude to someone who hasn't actually done anything to warrant it. "Nice to meet you, Jason. I was just wanting to ask some questions, get your view on some things." His tone and expression indicate that this guy is obviously not going to go away until he gets something. Tempted to yell for Ito, but not wanting to disturb his work, I answer stiffly, "Ain't got none." "No, I wouldn't be too sure about that," Alex presses amiably. "I mean, isn't it true that you're under inpatient care from Dr. Ito there?" He gestures in Ito's direction. "Which means you're also living under the same roof with the Battle Angel, Alita," he says with an almost grandiose tone at the end, using one of Alita's motorball nicknames. "Surely you've got at least a little something of interest to share? Favorite food, where she likes to hang out, music she likes listening to?" Since staying with Alita and Ito, I've learned that they both tend to be fairly private individuals. I also remember at least one bit of footage that Loretta showed me, featuring an almost enraged Alita threatening to carve out the camera optic of a reporter who unwisely asked whether she had a new boyfriend. This was some months ago, towards the start of her career, likely when the pain of her loss was probably fresher. So, instead of going directly to Ito or Alita, this guy's going to try and sneak in through me. This engenders a certain level of anger, particularly when I recall Alita's comment about an underhanded reporter causing her trouble. Unsure of what exactly to say, I merely shrug while trying to maintain a stone-faced expression. No doubt failing to get the hint on purpose, Alex plows on, changing up the subject a bit. "How about yourself? I couldn't help but notice that you didn't look too happy to be here earlier." It's my best monotone. I respond, "Not particularly." Alex nods, looking intensely interested. "Has it been difficult living with Dr. Ito and Alita? Has there been some friction that's made life there unpleasant?" My jaw tenses up, but I try to keep a neutral expression. "On the contrary, they've gone out of their way to help me." "Oh, good to hear," he responds, while seeming to take notes in a small data tablet that he was carrying. "I notice you seem to be enjoying yourself now," he says with a clear note of prompting. "Starting to," I reply, maintaining the monotone. "Or maybe it's just one particular aspect of the game?" he asks, with a suspiciously leading tone. While I get the distinct impression he's hinting at something, I'm just not clear on what that could be, so I shrug. "I suppose." I mean, I couldn't help but notice that you brightened up after a short exchange with the angel. But could you elaborate on what that might have been? A simple exchange between friends? Something more? His tone is one of asking an innocent question, but there's an almost predatory gleam in his eye. Confusion clouds my judgment, only briefly, but long enough for me to lose track of the vague answer I was going to give. I'm not sure what... Immediately I shut up, realizing that I just let my guard down. I give another vague shrug, inwardly lamenting. Too late to pretend I don't speak English, or any other language you might know. His smile, while trying to appear amiable, also strikes me as a bit oily. Well, I'm just saying, she seemed pretty concerned for you there. Considering she's usually kept a bit of a distance from all but a very few people, it was difficult not to notice. He gives me a meaningful look. She is an incredible young woman, and rather beautiful. Could it be maybe the two of you are... He gestures vaguely, obviously unwilling to openly elaborate. Finally, seeing what he's getting at, I suppress the sudden urge to laugh out loud and instead keep my face relaxed. Are the two of us... I prompt him innocently, feigning ignorance. The veil of fatigue and depression abruptly lifts, and my mind suddenly jumps into overdrive. Having gotten me more engaged, his smile broadens. You know, are the two of you... Oh! I exclaim, interrupting him with an act of dawning realization. You're wondering if the two of us are... I trail off as I once again gesture in vague fashion. Alex nods, clearly intent on the prospect of getting something juicy to report on the newest rising star, then motions for me to continue as he leans in a little closer. Yes, I say confidently, the two of us are. His eyebrows go up and he starts to look both surprised and impressed. Really? The sincere excitement on his face is almost comical. I jump in before he can say anything more. Absolutely, I proclaim with a nod. Alita and I are both carbon-based forms of life, have been since birth. I look up at him with my best deadpan expression. Takes all my willpower not to bust out laughing at his sudden change in expression. He is undeniably not amused. He straightens up with a sigh, barely concealing his disappointment. Still feigning my best innocent appearance, I take the opportunity to expound on my answer. He wanted me to talk? Fine, I'll talk. Putting on my best lecturing tone and tossing in a dash of condescension, I go on. I know it may be difficult to tell, given all the mechanical parts she possesses. You see, Alita is what's called a cyborg, a term derived from the root words cybernetic and organism, which refers to any organism which has been cybernetically enhanced. His battle to suppress his annoyance seems to be one he's losing. I quickly go on, determined not to let him get a word in edgewise. In her case, the organism in question is human, which is a carbon-based form of life originally native to Earth. All right, he interrupts impatiently. Gaining a bit more control over himself, he says, I get it. I know what a cyborg is. Look, pal, I'm just trying to... Hey, you there! Ito shouts from a couple stalls down, interrupting the nosy reporter. Stop bothering my patient! A visibly angered Dr. Ito begins storming in our direction. Holding up his hands, Alex relents. Okay, I'm going. To me, he says in a heavily miffed tone. You know, I could have made you the next headliner, given you your 15 minutes of fame. Who knows where that could have taken you? To which I merely shrug and tip the brim of my hat to him. In response, he shoots me a final dirty look. Drawn by the commotion, one of Alita's pit crew, Lucas, hurries over. Reaching me before Ito, he calls after the retreating reporter. Hey, shouldn't you be interviewing the players or something? Upon arriving, Ito shoots a glare after reporters retreating back before asking me, You all right, Jason? Feeling inexplicably giddy, I smile and look up at him. Yeah, I'm fine. In fact, I'm a little astounded at how good I feel. What was that he was talking to you about? Lucas asks with a faintly suspicious tone. Offhandedly, I reply. He was just asking stupid questions. Ito narrows his eyes a little, looking at me slightly askance. What did you tell him? I just gave him stupid answers, I say with a little shrug, injecting a slight southern twang into my voice. I add in a lazy drawl. My mama used to say, stupid is as stupid does, which draws mildly confused looks from both men. But I don't care. That whole exchange with the reporter left me feeling better than I have in days. All right, well, I need to get back to... Ito finishes the sentence with a sharp gesture back towards the stall he just left. Oh, sure thing, I say, waving him off. Ito nods and briskly walks off, but Lucas stays for a bit. You've been sitting here a while. You want something to drink or anything? He asks amiably. Well, I am thirsty. I figure I'll wait on trying to wrestle with going to the bathroom in this place. Nah, I'm good. Thank you, though. Lucas flashes an affable smile and gives a nod before heading back to work. When Ito is free again, he makes his way back to Alita's stall. Alita's team seems to have wrapped this one up, I observe offhandedly upon his arrival. Ito nods. Yes, they've got quite a lead. The other team put up a fight, but it looks to be just a matter of time now. As if to punctuate his answer, we turn to look out at the track as we hear a scream arc through the air and something or someone lands near the pit area with a loud metallic bang. We watch as members of the opposing team's pit crew rush over to the impact area hidden behind a low wall. Soon there's the sounds of someone, presumably the individual who crash-landed, screaming almost at the top of his lungs. What the fuck kind of weapon is that? Is that thing even legal? There's a quiet moment where the other pit crew is huddled together conferring with each other. Crashlander continues his tirade. Fuck that bitch! You put me back together! You send me back out! I'm gonna fuck her up! His voice raises to a near scream towards the end. As they drag him off to their side of the pit arena, we can see that he's missing both arms, half a leg, and his torso is torn up. He continues his ravings as they drag him away, promising untold vengeance upon the young cyborg girl who humiliated him. I look over at Ito and dryly comment. Well, looks like another satisfied customer. A short pause, and I quickly add, she completely dismantled him. What the hell makes him think he'll have any better luck with round 2? Ito just shrugs. His wounded pride will drive him to try, no doubt. He turns back to rechecking his tools and spare parts, shaking his head. The remainder of the game continues along similar lines. Alita and her team tear through the opposing team with some trouble, but in the end, the opposition is forced to field all 3 of their reserve players. By the time the game ends, the other team only has 3 players in working order, and Alita's team only lost 1 when RJ was forced out due to excessive damage. His replacement out of the 3-man reserves was eager to show what he could do, but was quickly taken down halfway through his first lap. With the player count at 2-1 odds in Alita's team's favor, Malcolm and Ito decide not to bother sending another reserve onto the track. By the time it's all over, I am more than ready to get the hell out of there and get to bed. The whole ordeal left me drained and feeling lightheaded. I'm also looking forward to a shower to wash away this feeling of having a strange film all over me. Rather troubling is the fact that, though I tried to deny it, I did actually enjoy watching Alita and her team do their thing on the track. Back in the locker room, I'm waiting in a corner while Ito and Malcolm are in Alita's little machine bay, transferring her core back into her berserker body. I observe Roman, who I've learned is the second best player on the team right behind Alita, approach the bay Ito and the others are in. I can't see into the bay, but I can overhear their conversation. Hey Doc, Roman asks, how's it coming on that weapon you promised? Ito's answer is a bit distracted, likely due to his focusing on transferring Alita. Oh, it's coming fine. I came across an idea for a possible improvement, but it's going to require a bit more testing. So it's going to be a little late. Sorry. Roman's response is understanding, but it's obvious he's eager to get his hands on Ito's new upgrade. Like most of his teammates, he exchanges a quick goodbye with me as he heads out of the locker room and into the pack of waiting reporters who've waylaid all of Alita's teammates. Interestingly, the only ones who didn't speak to me as they left were Tanaka and the 2 brothers, Roberto and Bannock. While Tanaka simply ignored me, the 2 brothers actually almost glared at me on the way out, leaving me to wonder if I somehow offended them. Ito, Alita, and Malcolm finally emerged from that bay, and Alita once again in her berserker body. Alita gives Ito a quick familial hug and spares a friendly pat on the shoulder for me as she bids the 3 of us farewell. I notice that she pauses at the door, seemingly to steel herself before stepping through into the pack of waiting reporters. Being something of an introvert, I feel a pang of sympathy at the thought of having to deal with that sort of thing. Turning to me, Ito says, well, now we wait a bit. I cocked my head at him curiously. Wait for what? For Alita to lead that pack of hyenas away, Malcolm explains. Frowning thoughtfully, Ito nods. She and I didn't want you to have to deal with getting mobbed by them, knowing what that might do to you. There's an impulse to push back against that, but there's no arguing that he's right. I don't do well with crowds as it is. I certainly don't want to deal with being surrounded by a swarm of reporters, even if they would be more focused on Ito. Ito and Malcolm spend the time talking over motorball business. Listening in from the sidelines, I learned that reporters in the pit during a game are actually fairly rare, but sometimes a news company will pay a bit to the people running the show to get close-ups of the players and pit crews during a game. Seems the fans really eat that stuff up, which in turn boosts profits for the news channel. After about 15 minutes or so, Ito decides it's safe enough to head out, and the two of us part ways with Malcolm. Despite his gruff manner, he seems like a decent sort. He just runs a tight ship and doesn't care for anything that might disrupt his team. Like a crippled guy in a wheelchair being dragged into the pit by the team's tuner cyber surgeon. We catch up to Alita, having finally shaken the mob of reporters. Kiyomi had managed to help rescue her with a timely pickup in the van. Then it's back to the clinic where the three of them decide to hold a little after-game gathering to unwind and spend some time together. As I'm about to leave to get a quick shower before heading to bed, Ito stops me. Jason, why don't you join us? Just for a little bit. And I hesitate to answer, he adds. It would be nice to have you there since you were technically part of tonight's win. The fight against feeling I would be imposing myself on them and the desire to actually have some company rages as I sit there for a moment, unable to decide. Finally, the desire for their company wins out. Sure, I say at last. Let me grab a shower first. Ito smiles in seeming relief at my answer. All right then, see you in a bit. I rush through a quick shower and head back down, actually looking forward to spend some free time with them after thinking about it. I also take a moment to appreciate that my depression seems to be nowhere in sight. With some hesitancy, worried I'll send myself spiraling again, I take out Alondra's necklace and look at it. I'm so sorry I failed you, I say silently. If only I'd been a better man, maybe I could have helped you. A surge of pain prompts me to put the necklace away again as I blink back tears. Taking a deep breath, I head back down to join the others. The little gathering ends up being more enjoyable than I'd hoped. Ito and I share a drink while the girls spend most of the time talking. It gives me the opportunity to see just how close the two are, almost like sisters. At one point, Ito mentions the reporter who'd questioned me. With a suspicious frown, Alita asks, what did he want? I take a quick sip of brandy to give me a moment to formulate an answer. He was digging for personal details. Guess he thought with me living here, I might be a good source of something he could use. Her tone slightly guarded, Kiyomi asks, what did you tell him? With a dismissive shrug, I tell her, I informed him that Alita is a cyborg. I then began going into excruciating detail about what a cybernetic organism is. Feigning confusion, I add, he didn't seem interested in hearing it. I punctuate with a who-knows shrug. At which point, Lucas and I chased him off, Ito adds. Kiyomi lets out a little laugh. Wish I could have seen his expression. Bet he didn't care for that. I nod agreement. When he left, he spouted some nonsense about me being famous if I'd helped him out. Not entirely nonsense, actually, Ito cuts in. When he has my attention, he goes on to explain. Alita is more private than many other players, and with how swiftly she's been rising through the ranks, as well as how popular she's become all over the city, information on her can fetch a high price from a news agency. Being a source of such information can translate into a bit of notoriety. One corner of her lips pulled up in an appreciative smile, Alita says to me, thanks for not saying anything. I shrug it off. Didn't seem like my place to be talking to some reporter about your personal life. Figured if there was something you wanted them knowing, you'd tell them. You know, Kiyomi says, directing an almost impish grin in my direction, I bet you'd be a lot of fun if you let yourself loosen up a bit. Swept up in a sudden bout of playfulness, I raise my glass to her and say with feigned seriousness, "Little lady, I put the F.U. in fun," at which point I down the remainder of my shot glass, lightly slam it down on the tabletop, and lean back in my wheelchair. In response, I'm rewarded with Ito and Kiyomi both bursting out in laughter while Alita chuckles and shakes her head at me. The gathering only lasts another half hour after that. Then Kiyomi bids us good night. Feeling strangely energized, I stay and clean up in order to allow Ito and Alita to head off to bed. However, after washing and putting away the last of the few dishes that were used, the energy wears off and I'm struggling against fatigue. Making my way upstairs, I finally get to my room, fumble for the light switch, and go to close the door. I nearly jump out of my skin upon hearing a soft voice from the darkened hallway. "Hey, got a minute?" Alita asks from beyond the half-closed door. I had thought the others were asleep by now. After a quick check to make sure my heart is still beating, I reply, "Sure." Opening the door fully, I back out of the way so as to give her room to step in. "What's on your mind?" "Just wanted to check on you," she says, keeping her voice low. "After what happened at the arena, Ito and I are still a bit worried. It was good to see that you're doing so much better this evening." "Yeah, I was glad of that myself." I glance over at my smartphone sitting on the nightstand. "It's strange. After what happened in the locker room, it's like the only way to go was up, I suppose. It's not the first time a mood swing has hit me so suddenly, but usually the depression lasts for several days. It makes me wonder if my time here, or Ito's medication, or both are causing some unexpected changes in the way my illness hits me." With genuine relief, she says, whatever the case, we're glad to see you're doing better again." She spares a brief smile as she adds, "Well, have a good night." Seized by some vague impulse, I tell her, "Hold on a sec." She stops and turns back as I dig around in my pocket and pull out Alondra's necklace. "Here," I say, holding the necklace up to her. It feels much heavier than it probably should. She originally meant to give this to you. I think you ought to have it." There's a moment's pause as she stops to look down at the necklace. Then, putting one hand in her mine, she uses her other hand to gently close my fingers around the piece of jewelry. "No," she says in an even softer voice, with a gentle shake of her head. "She gave that to you for saving her friend. You should definitely keep it." Heaving a quiet sigh, I take my hand back and rest it in my lap. Stare down at the little soaring bird on the chain. It feels like there's some sort of meaning in that visual, but I'm too tired to think straight. "Her death really bothered you, didn't it?" Alita makes it sound more of an observation than a question. "Suppose it did," I say without thinking. I know it probably shouldn't have affected me so much, considering I didn't even know her, but my voice abruptly catches in my throat. Instead, I shrug and shake my head. "But what?" Alita gently prompts. Clenching my eyes shut, I try to force my tired brain to think, wondering if there's even a point to answering. Ever since finding out about her suicide, I so badly wanted to talk to someone. I just didn't want to be a bother. Everyone around me seemed to have things that were so much more important to deal with. I was just the extraneous extra. I always seemed to be the extraneous extra. Finally, I open my eyes, keeping my gaze on the necklace, and say, "But I've been there. I've been suicidal more than once. I know a bit about what can drive someone to do that." My voice becomes rough with emotion. I did recognize the signs. I was just too stupid to see it in time. "But you did see it in time," she firmly insists. "You knew something was wrong, and you told Gerhard and Ito. He even asked me to check on her once he got her address." She kneels down so that I have to look her in the eyes. "I know you feel like you somehow failed her, but you're not always going to be able to save someone, no matter how much you want to or feel that you should have been able to." Something about the way she says that last part makes me wonder if she might be talking about something more personal. My mind just isn't sure what to make of that, and I'm sure as hell not about to ask. Regardless, I get a strong sense of empathy from her. "Yeah, I guess you're right," I concede. To my immense surprise, she stands back up and leans down, giving me a quick hug. Try to get some sleep. See you in the morning. Thanks, I respond automatically. See you in the morning. Then I'm alone again. Her words don't entirely smooth away the guilt and regret over what happened, but they do help. End of chapter.
Outstanding. Yeah, he started enjoying the motorball match, didn't he?
Yep.
It's official, you know.
Hmm?
When he's not depressed, he's a troll.
Yeah.
He can be. If he thinks somebody's trying to be underhanded with friends of his.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. Chapter 17.
Oh, that was excellent. So enjoyable. You know, it struck me. And of course, you know, I think many people in the Alita army. I mean, if Alita was a real person, and we were like in the 26th century or something like that, and she invited us to go with her to motorball, you know, to the motorball games, you know. We would just be all over ourselves doing it. So you know, and it's kind of hard to understand why his reaction was like it was, since he has become her friend, you know. But that's of course that's not taking into account, you know, his mental illness, I guess. So but you know, we would all just be, I mean, we'd all
jump at the
giddy.
chance of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'd be giddy, you know.
I don't know. I'd be kind of really concerned about being a version 1.0 Meat Boy in Iron City. Because look what happened to Jason.
Yeah,
that's true. You know. But
well,
I mean,
Jason went out of his way to actually confront trouble.
Yeah.
Because he thought that he needed to help try to save someone that looked like they were about to be murdered in front of him. If you don't do things like that, as most everybody else in Iron City doesn't do, you probably aren't going to necessarily have that kind of problem.
Yeah.
So basically it was an order of operations error. Make friends with Alita, walk down the street with Alita, get her to stand in between.
Yeah.
Basically. The problem is he wasn't able to make friends with Alita until the first thing happened.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so the order of operations couldn't have really happened the other way, unfortunately.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Basically.
I think he has gained her respect. I mean, even though he's a meat boy and he's pretty much helpless at this point, or 90% helpless at least, I think she really respects him. You know, I think she, you know, I think she really cares about him. And I think that if the age difference wasn't so great, who knows, you know, she would go for him, you know. Of course,
I'm kind of the opinion that at this point in her story, I mean, she is still recovering from Hugo's loss. So I don't think that she would get that far. Maybe years down the road, if the two were still together and the age difference weren't so great, maybe, but no, I don't really.
And this time frame right here is before she meets Figure 4, so
way before that. Yeah. That's years to go yet.
Nah, look, Alita's got a challenger if that's on the cards.
Yeah, that's right.
A challenger?
I won't say any more because it's spoilers.
Okay. I think I must be missing something. I'm not sure who you might be referring to.
Salsa?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
God damn it, you wrote it and I know it better than you.
Well, that's the thing. I
knew that as well.
I have so not intended to put any kind of romance into the story with Jason that I just keep blowing it off.
Well, I think it'd be out of place in a lot of ways, you know. I mean, Zaza has the hots for him after he gets his cybernetics working, you know. So.
All right. Well, you take care, AKA. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, indeed. I think he did.
Yeah, I was hoping the bit with him, with Jason trolling the reporter was amusing.
Yeah, I love
Entertaining.
Yes.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The story needed an upbeat. There was so many downbeats. It
I
needed
know.
an
That's
upbeat.
actually
Yeah.
why I put that in there, because I realized I've got to have some humor in here because things got really heavy in that last chapter and it needs to be
Yeah.
lightened up a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Life can't be on a downward trajectory all the time, or you hit rock bottom and get splattered.
Yeah. Oh, I'm well aware. I tried to pack at least a little bit of lightheartedness into every other chapter or every like third chapter or something like that, just to, keep it from being too down constantly.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't be any fun for me to write it if that were the case.
Yeah, because it'd be depressing all the time.
Well, it was already kind of depressing as it was.
Well, in that chapter it was, yeah, really.
Yeah. So yeah, the motorball stuff, that kind of really helped lighten things up and made it a lot more fun for me.
Which is an interesting juxtaposition considering what he thought about motorball.
Yes.
Which is kind of like a life lesson that you can't always predict what things are going to be like. You've got to suck it and see, as my old honest supervisor used to say.
Mhm.
That's really an Aussie thing to say.
Tell me about it.
Oh boy.
I put it in my writing and people are like, that's a weird thing to say. And I'm going, deal with it.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, it's end of 17 and
Well,
18 is more motorball.
Yeah. We'll definitely have you back, Lee, if you want to come back.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe sometime next month, we'll.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be soon. It's probably good to break it up and have other stuff, in between.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because he's going to run out of it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We're going to run out of it. That's right. So. Well, guys, did we miss anything?
Oh, I don't think so.
We've been going 3¼ hours. I don't think we've got space for anything else.
Well, the only thing we are missing is the sequels. We're missing those.
That's
I have to
true.
say that for Angeli,
Yeah.
who's really jealous right now, I think. Since
Hey,
Charlie.
Cricky, did I hear you're going to a premiere that Rose is going to be at?
Well, we don't know that she's going to be there. But I just want to see it. I want to see her in the movie and all that.
If that happens, then Angeli is going to be so jelly, it's not funny.
Yeah.
Twice as jelly.
Yeah, we want to see her in that movie. I mean, she's great. So we're looking forward to it. So.
Yeah, hope you get to see her again.
Yeah. Well,
Nice to run into her and maybe just.
Well, at least maybe say hi or something. But if we don't, that's all right. She's still our queen, so no problem. So, well, as you can see from that center panel right there, Alita does love her Uncle Creek, and that is because he wants those sequels, and he wants, like Lee said, 8 sequels. Yep. I want 3 trilogies, and I want more anime, and I want merch, and I want a game.
Yeah, they need to pick it up on the merch front. They really need to do that.
Yeah, they do. So anyway, and we're going to get it. I am really confident, but we'll be pulling for it and still keep doing our thing, what we're doing right now. So there's our queen right there, and of course she is #1 in the Creeks book in terms of being an actor, and she's awesome. And of course, I want to give shout outs to Eldamont and Jesse Fisher as well. They brought Screwhead to life. Mm-hmm. So we want all 3 of these ladies to be in the sequel. I want Screwhead and Alita to take on Joshagon, and when we interviewed Elle, she said she really is up for it. And I think she replied to one of a posts I had or something like that about her, coming back for the sequel, and she's still all in. She would love to do it, so anyway.
Well, her character is not dead.
That's right. That's right. Screwhead, that's right. Her core was not, she was knocked out, probably unconscious, but yeah, she's not dead. So anyway, that's my desire anyway.
Well,
It'd
my
be neat.
understanding is that when you get badly damaged, your core goes into preservation mode and you
Yeah,
basically
that's
go
right.
unconscious, but it keeps you alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
more likely she just got either put into some kind of preservation mode or temporarily stunned or something like that when she got cut to the middle like that.
yeah.
But yeah,
Of
it
course,
wasn't
she
anywhere
said
near
it.
the core.
Yeah, she said it was Stinger's fault. I think remember her saying that. He wasn't paying attention when he brought down those
He was
saws.
so intent on taking Alita's head off.
Yeah. So anyway, and what she say, Maxie? She said she wanted to get with Alita and say, "Hey, girl, I'm with you. Let's just burn it all down."
Yeah.
I love that.
Mhm.
It's great. So anyway, we want all three of these ladies in that sequel. That's for sure. They deserve it. Maxie, you want to talk about this one?
Yeah.
I didn't have time to. I did see your thumbnail for the for the show tomorrow. I didn't have time to put it onto this presentation, but anyway.
It's all right. Give me a second. I have to press all the buttons.
Yeah, just push a couple of buttons there, Maxie, and we'll see this.
There we go. Okay, so tomorrow on Radio Chaos, we will be having episode 285, which is the hashtag Alita September Art Stream 2025. I'm hoping, Creaky, that you've kept your eye out this month for artworks that we can display. I know you collect them as a little side hustle.
I got tons of them.
Excellent. So we'll be going through what we've spotted this month and our favorites from the rest of the year and days of yore. And we'll be doing a whole Alita art stream. I'm hoping to get Channel on, although she hasn't replied to me yet. But as the instigator of Alita September, it would be nice to have her on. But otherwise, we will be going through arts and getting all googly-eyed and ooh-wooed. And I think Angelus is hosting that one. So
okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, I'm going to get in touch with Cran and see if she can come on. I haven't been able to do much this week except work. So anyway, but we'll get in touch with her, see if she can come on as well.
Cool. So yeah, that's tomorrow on Radio Chaos on the Alita Army channel. It's episode 285, Alita September Art Stream 2025. So join us for that one. There'll be lots of ooh-woo. Ooh-woo for everybody.
Yeah,
you get some ooh-woo and you get some ooh-woo. Oh, and you get some ooh-woo too.
Yeah, that's right.
Ooh-woo for you too.
Yeah, that's right.
You going to be on, Lee?
I'm definitely going to try it. I try to be there every Saturday if I can help it.
I'll send you a link.
Yeah.
Do that. So that's us.
Yep.
All righty.
And if you folks out there in the chat, not too many folks out there, but if you want to come on and say hi to us, we don't stream it. This will be after the stream is over. So it'll just be us chickens, as they say down south. And you can, not South Australia, but South US.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'll put the link here in the chat so you can just click on that.
Creaky, you do know that Australia is south.
Yes.
South,
much.
Florida.
It is much south. That's right.
But we are south, Florida.
Yeah. Oh, is that what they call you down there in Australia?
That's what my co-hosts on Science Fiction Remnant call Australia.
Ah, very, very south, Florida.
That's right.
Cool. I don't think there's a Sydney in Florida, though. I'm not sure.
It should be.
Yeah. Yeah, really. But anyway, click on that link. I'll bring you in, and you can just say hi and get off. You can stay with us. Since we are now, we're an hour and 20 minutes longer than we normally are, but we'll hang in here for a few minutes, and then hopefully come on, say hi to us, and nobody on the internet will see it. So anybody out there that's it's been in the chat, you haven't been doing much haven't been putting any messages in the chat, you can feel safe. We're not gonna We're not going to put this out in front of the internet or anything like that. So we are the Alita Army. We are the most positive fandom on the internet. We support Alita and Rosa passionately and positively, because Alita's our girl and Rosa's our queen, and we just we want the best for both of them. So you know, we're in Disney. We're here to stay. You know, Disney had you know, they had a lot of pushback here the last week or so of the happenings here in the U.S. So hey, you'll have a lot of allies if you greenlight that sequel. So you know, we'll help you battle these people. So anyway, so you know, that's you know, the kind of give us the sequel, damn it. That's all I'm going to say about this. We want it. You'll make money, for Christ's sake. I mean, you know, there's, you know, I think if my channel is only just 1/10 of how many people that are in the Alita Army, there are literally millions out there, you know, so, because not everybody's on YouTube, you know, that's for sure. So Disney, wake up, for Christ's sake, give us the sequel and you will make money. We guarantee it, because you've got literally hundreds of thousands of PR people that would be just excited, and probably the social media would just explode if you did that. So give us a sequel and we will reward you.
Yep.
There's money to be made, Disney.
Yeah, that's right. Why is this image here? Well, that image is there because I like it. And to paraphrase Gruishka, I'm only here for our girl and our queen and the Alita Army. So, you know, we're all in the Alita Army here for our queen and our girl and each other, because we want that sequel. So come on, Disney, let's pony up on this and get it, make it happen. And that just leaves us with one thing left to do, and that is the call to action. That would be on my count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Fill those sequels, baby. So anyway, thanks. We'll see you next week on the Alita live stream, and we will see you tomorrow on Radio Chaos.
Take care, everybody.
Yep.
Bye.
What's up, Alita Army? This is Hot Toys Alita, and I hope you enjoyed this week's Alita live stream. Please join my Uncle Creek, Angelus, and our other guests for next week's show. Remember, I do not stand by in the presence of evil, and film those sequels, baby. See you next time.